wrap up chapter 6, because I think that's where we left off. There was some discussion that was being had.
So I can just briefly run through the changes that we have and then.
Here,
Okay.
if we pause 6 until we get the other 2 commissioners in. Because there was homework assignments and we need to make sure we had that addressed.
Fair enough.
So I actually want to go ahead and let's talk about chapters 3 and 4 with the reference numbers.
Okay.
That would be, because that's just an easy pass through.
Should be.
Fair.
Should be.
So I've preemptively redlined chapter 3 to take out all references to NFPA and replace with directory language to chapter 6. The language we used in other parts where we've done this in prior rulemaking hearings is the program compliant with performance standards of the National Fire Protection Association as set out in chapter 0360-06-01 and TCA 424-112. That's the exact language I've recommended we replace each section with. What I'll likely do is take out the full name of the National Fire Protection Association and just reference NFPA as we go further down.
muted?
There were like approximately 40 references to NFPA in chapter 3. So just so you guys see where I've highlighted, it's under each
Being
type of certification.
transparent with the budget and answer.
That's just.
Yeah, it's still good.
So I don't want to bore you guys, but fire officer 1, fire officer 2, fire officer 3, fire officer 4. There's one in HMA. Wildland 2. Fire apparatus operator, pump driver operator, aerial apparatus driver operator, incident safety officer, rope awareness, rope operations.
Oh, wait.
Did I miss one? Oh, rope technician.
So there's pretty much gonna be one in every discipline, yes.
And I did a control F search to find them yesterday, so I'll read it word for word when I'm doing the formal red lines, just to make sure there's 0 references left.
Seems. Shorter than I was thinking.
Fire inspector 1, fire investigator 1,
I think there'd be a setting.
HMT, hazardous materials incident commander, plans examiner, fire marshal, aircraft rescue firefighting driver operator. And that's it for chapter 3. There's a subcommittee to see any other changes that need to be made to chapter 3 if we open this chapter.
Stand by. I have just received a text from David Doris saying he was in the lobby requesting to come in.
Not showing him.
So is
Be in the right meeting, yes.
he in this lobby? In that folder. Is he downstairs? This lobby.
Maybe in the wrong one.
Maybe last month's. Yeah.
forward is.
What in chapter 4 are we specifically looking for?
Proposed edits to chapter 4. Chapter 4, I have also recommended removing specific numerical references to the NFPA and using directory language to point readers to chapter 6 and the Tennessee Code annotated. I've done that under the general paragraph at the top on the first page. Also done that under examination form.
Go.
A couple places. Form for fire officer 1 and 2, and form for fire officers 3.
Okay.
Fire officer 4. HMA. HMO. Airport firefighter.
Text.
Wildland firefighter 1. Wildland firefighter 2. Fire and life educator
Text
1.
Greg Ruthoff.
Ms. Laura.
Call Greg
Captain
Ruthoff.
York said that the link on the website is not working. That's one he was trying to use.
Everybody else is humble. Everybody else got it.
Didn't work for me.
Where it says fire and life educator. The standard is actually called,
Oh, great,
the standard is actually called fire and life safety educator. I don't know if that's an issue, but just to point it out.
It says that in the second sentence here. I think that's probably a typo. We're opening the chapter anyways. Would the commission, subcommittee be comfortable just
Hey,
adding
did you
the
get
word
on?
safety into fire?
No, I'm not on.
All right, so Laura sent me a
Anywhere
new
that-
link. What's your
One and
email?
two, both would be the same thing.
Okay. If you'll just do a quick skim for those and shoot me an email if you see any others.
Absolutely.
I think it's probably just a typo there. Got it. Where do you- Y'all want me to keep going down or do we need nothing for a minute?
No.
Okay. Fire apparatus operators. Pumper driver operator. Incident safety officer, aerial apparatus driver operator, health and safety officer. Rope awareness, rope operations, rope technician, interior structure fire brigade member, fire inspector, fire investigator 1, hazmat tech, hazardous materials incident commander, plans reviewers, fire marshal, aircraft rescue, firefighting. I have this, I have a question about this. Under evaluators, we have a reference that, to the 1987 NFPA standard for firefighter 3. I
There's
was
still firefighter freaks out there.
okay,
Yeah, there are.
enough that we need to keep it in the rule as a,
Think about it.
licensed
Well, it's usually
evaluator.
the old guys do live fires at the academy.
Okay, so we need to leave that in.
I think that would be something that we would look at removing.
Unless you're gonna hold them to the all you're asking for is the firefighter 2, and they have firefighter 3, well, then 2 is what we're looking for. That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they can't be 3 if they weren't 2, or what they
Right.
call journeyman.
My fear is right now for chapters 3 and 4, we're looking at making as very minimal changes on these that not hold up anything else.
Yeah, but there's already 20 red lines.
Right, but they're all NFPA standards.
Well,
Except
that's
for the addition of safety for life safety educator.
Now, if this is not a red line that the subcommittee feels like is going to be controversial, I think it'd be fine to take out. If you feel
I
like,
don't think it would be controversial.
I don't think it would
because
slow us down.
It
Everyone,
just can't be.
yeah,
If you thought this was going to open debate like chapter 7 is, then I would recommend maybe for sake of efficiency, not handling it. But if you think it's just a quick red line, let's attack it while we're opening the chapter. It's my
I
recommendation.
know this third hasn't been issued since 96.
right. So
30 years almost. It can't be made. There's a
he just
handful of
recently
them.
retired.
Yeah, yeah. You might be. So shocked. I didn't even, it wasn't even eligible to me when I came to this state.
I did find a typo in section 5 here for each applicant doesn't have a space. I just recommend adding space there.
So for chapter 4, I would like, I know we're trying to keep stuff to
So
amendment.
there's another firefighter 3 there.
Heather, I got 2 more pages and then I want to do your question. If that's okay.
Fair enough.
Okay, so NFPA for instructors, evaluators, and approved applicants. I just want to use that NFPA reference to chapter 6.
Yep.
Live burn practical. I just want to reference chapter 6, take 14 and 3 out. All right, and then that's it. And then I know,
Real quick,
but
based on our conversations yesterday, since we're opening 4 with this right now, should we make any of those small tweaks concerning passbooks?
Yes,
Okay,
for the simple fact of that kind of formalizes it.
right,
Because I can go in and on the skill sheet, take out practical and plug in project or whatever,
right.
and no harm, no foul, but
Yeah,
This is
if we're gonna go ahead and open this, let's go ahead and address those things. So when we go and look at the officer series, practical, we want to change that to project.
only under the office.
anything that those guys are sending out, so not just the officers, but like the instructor 2,
Incident safety officer.
fire and life safety educator.
Alright, so
Maybe we should start,
I think it's maybe because I got a share screen on mine.
Sorry, and I might just be going too fast.
would it be fair to start at the top and just kind of scroll through
Oh.
this?
Yeah, that's not on my computer.
No, they're not saying.
Okay.
So that we can kind of make sure that we fit everything.
Because, yeah, let's do that because, but it's gonna be probably the next cycle before we actually tackle this as a whole. So if we need to make those small adjustments now to, appease both accreditation boards, then let's go ahead and do that now to make sure that we're, yeah,
So we're changing the word practical to project.
not in every one of them.
Okay.
Only where the, coordinators are sending out the projects.
My opinion is that we go discipline by discipline to make sure that we catch all
Yeah.
of them.
That's fine.
Okay. So is that a list that, Greg, you want to send to me and I can get that red line before we file it? Or is that we want to handle, line by line today?
That's however, that's whatever would be easier.
What's the?
We can go ahead and there's not that many of them, so I mean,
Okay.
we can just go ahead and knock them real quick.
I'll just start it.
More.
Do we want to address that or, do you want, Heather, do you want to address your thing and we can do both as we go through, or how do you want to do it?
I'm good with that if y'all are. If y'all want to address the application
Is that
language,
in 3 or 4?
it's in 4.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start with that.
So it's under, the item I'd like to address is under applications.
In 1, all training practicals and examinations. Should we also put all training practicals and projects and examinations, since we're now adding projects into?
Do you want projects to go before or after?
After. It's just, you're gonna do something, you're gonna want these 4 things. For all, and on the level of cert.
It's again in that same paragraph. 1,
Where, here?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, practicals.
Well, that's only talking about practicals and exams. Will be given a location reasonable. If he's sending the project to them, it's at their workplace. So it wouldn't have to be there. The project is proximate to the individual.
You can look at number 5 real quick. Remember, we talked about this rule previously, and it was in there because at one point in time, commission members actually administered tests out in the field. We no longer do that.
Well, but you still can. I mean, let's say he's got one scheduled TFAC in a day. He's sick as a dog. We don't want to cancel the test.
Right.
I've gone out there and filled in.
But we're trying, we've increased our number of proctors. So I don't foresee a reason why y'all should have to.
But why exclude us? I guess it wouldn't be. I mean, we're firefighters. I mean, we would fit the bill as a certified firefighter. I'm just saying, it has happened. I've still got the screen, I've got my thumb drive with all the instructions and the countdown clock.
This
and-
is-
Yeah, the only reason why I bring it up is because the hoops that we as commissioners have to jump through to actually do a commission test.
This is sit for, this says sit for, it doesn't say anything about.
Oh, administering.
Yeah.
Now, it should be stated that PowerPoint and SOP has changed. So if you guys do end up doing that, there has some new material to provide.
It has been a while, but
It's only changed since Heather's been here, so. Not like blaming you, just saying that.
Okay.
is that where the rule that if one of us tested, one of us had to be there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think y'all changed that on us.
Right.
Okay, continue on.
That was what it was.
That's what I was referring to. Right, so real quick on 7. Applicants shall have 12 months from the initial test date to complete both the practical and written examinations. Okay, I just had to read it a couple times because when we discuss that 12-month, because a lot of people get confused that, do I have to retake the class? No, class never expires. You just have to make sure that you study the most current recent standard. But it is 12 months from the initial start of testing that if you have not passed, then yeah, you have to restart the testing process.
So the item I'd like to bring up is under applications. So for number one there, where it says any departments electing to host, the second sentence begins, at the time of examination, each individual applicant shall have completed applications submitted with appropriate documentation for necessary prerequisites. I would like to propose a change to the wording at the time of to change to prior to the time of examination.
Want to kind of talk them through the reasoning.
So some of the issues that we deal with in the office is when do we register? What's our cutoff? Things of that nature. And as y'all know, there's multiple different avenues. A lot of people are testing at the end of classes, or we're hosting open testing events. And so if a department is hosting a testing event at the conclusion of the class, oftentimes we don't know who's going to be in that class until the Monday of the class. So the next statement down under A, applications off-campus certification must be received by the commission a minimum of 2 weeks prior. I would like to see that removed and us just have a blanketed statement of prior to the time of the examination, we should have all this supporting documents and the application, and allow the office to kind of create some kind of internal policy that determines when the cutoffs are of when we will accept those items. Because it's really difficult to create a blanketed statement for those differences between an open testing event and class. So that's my proposal, is to change that word at to prior and then also remove A as well.
So we've had conversations about this.
Yes.
And so it comes down to what is a reasonable time frame in order for somebody to be able to pop into a test before and to have their credentials verified prior to that test date.
So if it's a class, oftentimes, again, we don't know who's going to be in that class until the Monday.
Right. And if it's a class being held in either a department or on campus, they may start the class and they may be put into that roster for testing on Friday, but come Wednesday, they may have dropped from the class.
Correct.
Well, that shouldn't be, that's not your problem. They could, if somebody's going to, let's say safety officer at Oak Ridge Fire Department, it's a TFACA sponsored course. He has the roster a month out, just whenever the deadline is. Well, that's not our problem. If somebody registers that Monday, I know we want to take care of the individual firefighter, but most classes have a registration period. There's nothing to say that they can't already submit. And if they drop out on Tuesday, then nothing's hurt. It lessens the burden on the office.
But even your TFACA events, the classes that are held on campus, they do not know who is going to be in that class until the day of. We do not in our office get a roster from those events until the Monday the class starts.
Well, that's not how they're operating. They wouldn't host the class if they knew they were only gonna have 4 people. They have a pre-registration for these classes and a waiting list a lot of times.
They will accept students all the way up until the day of.
Well, then that student may not get to test that week. I mean, that's not our fault. I mean, I know that's harsh. I get it, but
This is, I'm just going.
For me, I feel like that this 2 weeks was for you all to be able to process the paperwork.
Because of
And
the
get it in.
limited manpower in the office.
Yes, and we,
In my opinion, I look at it as if y'all can do it prior to, if that's an hour prior to, and this customer needs to get a test, let's test them if they made it.
right, but with this
But if you
statement,
got-
it is you've got it set in stone
Right,
where there is no flexibility for me to offer them.
right. That's why when we've had our conversations, my question was, what is a reasonable amount of time to be able to do the verifications? And I think we talked maybe up to either 48 or 72 hours prior to the actual test event. It's the time frame that you would need for.
Devil's advocate, that's the week that IFSAC is here doing an accreditation visit. There's nobody in the office that's gonna stop and do that verification though. Now, again, that's an exception, but it will happen. Because everybody on staff's gonna be accreditation to the wall that week.
Then you said you was wanting to do a policy though, right? Or part of it, let you all handle that in-house?
Yes.
or is that-
Yes, that way we can have a little more oversight of if it is an open testing event, like the ones they host on TFACA every second or third Tuesday of the month. Those are not at the conclusion of a class. So we can set that to yes, we want everything in by, a minimum of a week in advance. But if it's at the conclusion of a class, like you've taught ISO or you've taught instructor or officer, sometimes we don't have those course completions in hand until that end of the class. We have a roster at the beginning of the week, but we don't even have the course completion until the end of the week. So with this statement, this has caused so much unnecessary issues in the office because of this 2 week.
Somebody has their hand raised on my screen. I don't know if it's not showing on your slide.
David.
David.
Oh, I was being patient. I just want to remind also the other problem outside is.
Hold on. She's gonna.
Go ahead.
Okay. Classes that are taught off campus, that the practicals are required prior to the test, such as hazmat, firefighter 1, instructor,
That's not
PDO,
those.
ADO.
I know how to operate a
A lot of
speaker.
times those practicals are done the day before the test or even the day of the test. And the way the rules are, they get kicked out of the test. I know they're going around that right now.
David, you're gonna have to repeat your whole thing.
We all both can't have speakers on.
Talk.
That better?
You can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, hear on yours.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Just a reminder on programs that are taught off campus and on campus, such as the hazmat, firefighter, apparatus certifications, and instructor. The way the rules are written now, practicals have to be turned in up to that 2 weeks prior to the test event. Practicals are normally even on campus done with the class, sometimes the same day of the written test. Such as hazmat awareness and ops being done the morning of and a written test in the afternoon, or firefighter 1 and 2 the morning of and afternoon. Practicals are done as part of the pump class, rope class, all of those. Hazmat tech.
Mute.
Oh, I mean, see there.
Yeah.
So he muted himself. I think that was his comment.
So I think this goes back, since I'm the old timer here, to integrity in the system and staffing levels. What can you pull off fast enough to help the customer, but to maintain from a accreditation model integrity in the system, that we're not just being a certification mill or somebody slips through the cracks that shouldn't be testing. I mean, that's what it's. We gotta remember, I'm not saying, but we know there are bad actors out there. So there's a balance in here somewhere to customer assistance and what we're responsible for maintaining the accreditation. let's say. And again, I don't know what the state's timelines are, I'm sure Alabama has theirs and Kentucky has theirs. Is there no industry standard or just whatever we're comfortable with? As long as we enforce our policy.
Our policy says 2 weeks.
If it says 2 hours,
Or if it, even something as generic as the director has the ability to decide on every, however, you know what I mean? Like it can be as generic. as
yeah, and
that.
again, it doesn't have to be in this rule. It could be in policy and the policy can change. If it doesn't work.
And that's why I'm asking for, a more of a blanketed statement within the rules. And, obviously we've got to have something in there about the application, but
Yeah, for those purposes.
don't back us into a corner with let us have the flexibility to ebb and flow as our industry ebbs and flows.
Would legal be okay with that being in a policy versus a rule?
So what we can do if we write it in policy or procedure is that we can say the office shall not accept rosters more than this many days ahead without written permission by the director or something like that. What we can't do is say training officers may not submit. We can't control somebody that in policy that is outside of the state's employ. So it's more about that the office shall operate in this manner versus members of the public we can't regulate unless we do it in a rule.
So we look at classes, for instance, let's throw TEMA out there, right? They're teaching hazmat tech, 2-week class. Typically we do the practical for that maybe a day or two prior to the actual written test.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to look at big picture here as far as what our end user, what's going to be best for them. And with the 2-week, there are many occasions where, hey, got to get this person in a test because let's face it, it's not like we have set testing the first, third, fifth Wednesday of every month is going to be a test in West Tennessee or in Middle Tennessee or East Tennessee. Sometimes we may go almost 3 weeks, maybe even a month without a test scheduled in a regional area. And then all of a sudden one may pop up and they may have a day or two to try to get it applied for prior to that 2 week.
I think the 2 weeks excessive. Where's the balance?
Right.
We're not looking to create the policy procedure today. I'm just asking for a blanketed statement so that we can come back and revisit this at a later date and really hammer that out on what is to work on. That's what I'm asking for today with rule.
Down the road, we gotta be careful. Our customer keeps going, we want consistency. You
Right.
do this week and next week you do that. And
Right.
we've been accused of that quite a bit. Having conflicting policies or rules. And so, yeah, I think 2 weeks is a long time. Because if I was the training officer or the chief and Jeff calls, say, hey, we got 2 spots in ISO next week. You got anybody? Well, yeah, we'll send somebody. If I've been holding out for getting in.
Yeah.
Park school, rookie school, they always have a wait list for those 2 classes every year.
So that's why, like when the director and I first talked about this many months ago, my question is what is feasible for the office to process?
And that's gonna vary.
Like I said, those open testing events, what we're doing right now, that works wonderfully. But those classes, the testing at the conclusion of those classes cause us so much drama, and it's unnecessary.
And part of that is because sometimes they don't get the documentation in until the night before,
The test.
after everybody's gone, the test, and so we can't get the roster to the proctors and
And
get
the
them
doctors are-
registered and.
Certificate is then being scanned and emailed at lunchtime on that Friday. We have that test event taking place at 2 o'clock that afternoon. And so now it's a rush to get that class certificate to your office to be able to make sure, yes, this is who all is testing at 2 o'clock, 2 hours later. So
But you could, I mean, and that's in the policy. We may be way in the weeds for what you want today, but you know, when that class starts on Monday morning, if he's hosting, he can fax it in. They don't finish the class. No, it's much easier to cut somebody than it is to try to add someone on Friday.
Absolutely. And that's fine.
That's where the policy, where you would write the policy.
But again,
Submit your roster by noon on Monday. And again, if somebody didn't make it, just don't test them.
right. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But again, back to that very point, he may not know exactly who all's gonna be in that test till that class till Monday.
Till Monday, but I'm saying, you know, in your policy, by noon, fax the roster in. They'll know then,
Right.
at
But
least who started the week.
for this, you're saying that we have to know who's in this event 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I've redlined is to change at to prior to, and then take out A and renumber accordingly.
Sure, fixes yours.
So going through commission testing, written and practical, do I need to write anything about project under character of examinations?
correct.
In this chapter, I've scrolled down and the TV hasn't.
I'm not seeing what you're talking about.
I'm looking at chapter 4.1.03, character of examination, new rules.
Except for
Yes. I would almost venture to say anywhere it talks about practicals, we need to include projects because it's gonna be a requirement for them to be able to earn that certification.
So the first line, commission testing, both written and practical, shall be in accordance with the adopted NPA standard. How would we like to integrate the word projects in that one?
Takes both out, inputs, commission testing, written.
So can I ask a question? It says in accordance with the appropriate adopted NFPA standards. The standards telling them what they have to do as far as raise a ladder, do a budget, give a presentation. But in reality, from the testing standpoint, it should be in accordance with pro board and like the accrediting agencies, not so much. It has to follow the standard, right? Because that's
Right.
what we're certifying to.
But
When it
with
comes-
that word of accordance, where it's according to our accrediting agencies, not the NFPA.
because there might not be an FP center at some point for a test, just for example.
I mean, ultimately, yes, we can.
Okay, it said that, and in accordance with the rules of the accrediting body /
Mhm.
bodies.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just
Enough.
didn't read as far ahead out loud as I did in my brain. Okay, so both written and practical. I took out both commission testing,
Commission testing,
projects, and practicals.
It's still up.
your red line written.
Keeps freezing up there.
Commission testing, projects, and practical shall be important.
Written, there's a written examination. You red line written.
Where do you want?
Speakers on. That's what they keep.
We said commission testing, including projects written test and practical for
Not the cameras that it's freezing. Cause it's right on my screen.
I'm not seeing.
Would it be acceptable to just say all commission testing event and just leave it at that instead of having to say written practicals, projects?
that would be easier.
Commission testing shall be in accordance and just take that.
All testing, no matter what kind of testing.
Yeah.
Can you guys see this now or?
Thank you,
I can't.
thank you.
Okay, so all commission, you want to say all commission testing shall be. Okay. As clear as it can be.
They're seeing it on their end. It's just easy.
This keeps freezing.
Sorry about that.
Testing.
All commission testing shall be in accordance. The next one says practical examinations. Do we need to say and projects?
Hold on. There was an addition that's in there. And because we're talking about all testing should be in accordance with the appropriate standards and accredited bodies. Then it goes into a commission representative or designee shall chair a committee or of fire service personnel who are certified at or above the level of certification being validated. Now we're talking about test validation.
That's totally different.
Yeah,
Needs to come out
that's
of there.
completely,
Okay,
I was gonna ask this in.
So just- take that line.
That last sentence doesn't.
That validation is somewhere else in the works.
it should, and if not, we'll add it back in under, I think there is a test validation chat or section.
Mhm.
David, did you have another question or is your hand just still up?
No, I don't. I'll fix it. Thank you.
So I have that redlined. The next, under check character of examinations. Examinations shall meet the job performance requirements. Do we want to say and contracts?
Well, so my opinion reading that is that almost doesn't need to be there. Because it says, shall meet the job performance requirements. Well, the chapter above says in accordance with, or this paragraph above says in accordance with the appropriate adopted NFPA standards. Well, that's what that means. You gotta follow those JPRs.
Right.
And then it gets into to determine the ability, manual skills, and the leadership of the applicant, but there's nothing that talks about the cognitive level of what the written exam is going to evaluate. So if we're not gonna do that, do we need to do this? So that's just my 2 cents on that.
So then the proposal would be to redline paragraph 2. Under grading, the commission shall prepare exams. I didn't. Heather, can you pull up the official rules, on the website?
I'm looking at them now. Those are still,
They're black in the official rules.
the one on the website is still showing all that.
So that must have just been a typo on mine. So what do we think of section .04 grading? any changes.
Now, this isn't a new one, right?
This is the current 2024 that we're,
This is talking about the disputing of a question, so the challenging per se, which we've cleaned that up. So this is just saying pretty much that if a student's got a concern about a question at a testing event, that they are pretty much to notify the proctor, and then it's to come back to the office instead of them scheduling a time to come back in, or a time to come in and actually challenge it, so. This was changed.
Yeah.
In the new rule.
so we're good with the way this reads. Do we want to add anything about projects in paragraph 2 under grading?
More grading projects,
Yeah, we would have to throw projects into that.
or have three, which would look the same,
Right. I would, to alleviate more words for the sake of more words, I would just
added
throw
practical
projects in there.
slash project. And that, it's funny, we did redline that for this ruling. We touched it already.
So this one, we like the way this chapter, this section 4 looks.
Other than you'll need projects. Yeah, because we just did it.
Yes.
Retesting, doesn't say anything about practicals and projects, doesn't have any reference.
And real quickly, just so everybody's kind of on the same sheet of music, we started throwing this word project out here. In reviewing things and the way we've been doing practical skills in Tennessee, if Todd as the coordinator sends out a practical skill and then the student's allowed to do that on their own, they're in violation of policy of the accrediting bodies because of the fact that practical skills by definition are graded by a proctor in person, like live in the moment. If we call it a project or a task book or a portfolio, then he's allowed to send it out. The student's allowed to work on it on their own and then submit it into him for grading. So it alleviates any kind of conflict of what we're doing by calling it a practical skill, by calling it a project. So that was a conversation Bill and I had yesterday in regards to that, and that's where all that came from. And if anybody has any questions, by all means, I'll answer them. But just to give everybody kind of a up to speed why we're throwing that word in here all of a sudden.
So just for clarification, we're not changing the procedure, we're simply changing the language surrounding what we're sending home with people.
The only part of the procedure, I guess, that would change, because right now, if Todd sends me fire officer, he's gonna send me skills 1, 3, 5, and 7, like a randomization of all of the skills. But by policy with the accrediting bodies, when you do a project, the student now has to do 100% of the practical skills. So that'll alleviate them having a whole bunch of, 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, all the different variations of the skills, because the student's going to have to do 100% of them.
And that's something that you guys are gonna handle internally on policy.
Yes.
Examination shall consist of a practical and written examination. Do we want to say practical or project and a written examination? Examination form.
Yeah, it's gonna full project and a
Because we've been calling those projects practicals. And technically they're not.
The practical examinations for a firefighter one shall consist of all of the following. So this is where we need to go to decide what needs to say practical.
So list,
Okay. Just so
those are all projects.
just so that this is on the record. Sticky note says fire officer 1 through 4, ISO, FLSE, can you tell me?
Fire life safety indicator,
1 and 2, FDI2,
fire department instructor 2.
okay, and then inspector 1 and 2. So if it's okay with the subcommittee, I can make those edits, and turn that back over and after this meeting.
Those will be all projects, not practicals.
So under section 6, the things I just listed are what we're going to change from the word practical to the word project. I'm also going to pull out the enumerated NFPA standards as we discussed. I think we've already highlighted those. Is there anything else in chapter 4? We've addressed Heather's question, we've addressed the NFPA enumeration, and we've addressed practical being changed to project. Anything else in chapter 4 we need to open before we say we're gonna close chapter 4?
Can we look at incident safety officer? Or 21,
21 or 20.
21 and 22.
Yeah.
I have it on the screen.
So 21, is talking about the practical examination and the written, about halfway down. Applicant will be provided an incident scenario in a written examination setting. This project will be evaluated by a committee on the commission, which will meet in conjunction with a regular scheduled commission meeting on an as-needed basis, successful
Yeah.
completion. We need to, yeah,
Cut that out.
yeah, it needs to go, like,
Just that sentence, this project will be evaluated by the commission as on an as-needed basis. That's what we want to cut.
This month, so are they given a scenario?
So they are given us,
Yes.
they're given their practical project, but it is graded by the regional coordinators. It's not, it does not come before,
Us. Yeah, I don't
Us.
think I've ever seen.
yeah.
But by rule,
It
but by rule,
should.
And then in 22, we also want to take this outline will be evaluated by a committee of the commission.
22 could be deleted entirely because that is not even a certification that we have or offer.
Will we?
I have a question.
It's a pro board cert.
I think we took it out of 3 too, like it's not listed
Okay.
in, I don't think it got left in chapter 3. I think it got removed.
so
It just got missed in 4.
since we're talking about this, and it may be down, but
No, it did get left in,
David, you have your hand up?
it is still in 3.
Yes,
Do we want to take
chapter 21, that last
Okay.
sentence.
Hold on.
Hold on just a second, David,
Okay.
sorry.
all right,
Go ahead.
I'm trying to go back and look at some of the other ones, but chapter 21, that last sentence, the practical is also not required before you take the test.
Do we cut that?
Right
last
now.
sentence in 21?
Yes.
Right now, you
I
can
think
take the
it's already
class,
cut in the red
test,
line.
and do practical later.
Pretty much the,
all right, David, lower your hand.
Do we want to go back to chapter 3 and take out health and safety officer?
I misspoke.
Okay.
It's still there.
So do we want to take it out of 3 or leave it in?
Let's leave it both for the time being, but it's not something that we are accredited to, so it's not even something that we offer a test for.
It would be a natural progression.
Yes, it would be something that we could look at later.
It's only a pro board certification if my memory's right. Anyway.
So
That I've got it through Health and Safety Officer Association offers it at their conferences,
okay.
and it's a pro board only.
Now, would we want to take out the verbiage as the same?
This outline will be
Yeah, that's not gonna do it.
So,
If
Funny,
SAC
they
will,
don't do it practical.
if SAC will accredit it.
Well, okay, I just know Pro Board has always been in with HSO, with the ISO.
Do we need to take out the follows and its successful completion of this outreach shall qualify the applicant?
yes.
Yeah, because Pro Board does. You sit through a 2-day class
So
and then you take the exam. Done it a couple of times.
when we, all right, so it's not there.
So in 26, you may have already caught it. It's got an NFPA reference in it. Yeah, caught it, yeah. We have that test?
Mhm.
There's another one we don't have. Dan probably pushed for that with the industrial fire section. Used to be a training officer at,
We're not even accredited to it.
no, but see, there is a section on the Tennessee Fire Chiefs for industrial firemen. They don't, at some point want one.
Here's the chapter on practical examinations.
Load it,
Oh, sorry.
written examinations. Yeah, okay.
And practical examinations, we can just go line by line and we feel like we need to add the word project, and you guys tell me how you want it.
And it is written, one department may administer a practical examination to another participating department. That sounds like that's all outside of the control of mission testing. Is that right?
Basically, so,
Sound like the driver operator.
right, right, or even a live burn. So there was a time where 90% of the live burns took place at TPAC. Today, we have regional live burn facilities across the state. So what this is saying is that if Madison County is hosting a live burn, they can go ahead and do the practical evolutions for departments A through Z
From wherever.
from wherever they come in.
Right.
So,
So in that context, projects would not apply to this because all the projects are gonna come from the coordinators and then come back.
right,
Or staff, right, commission staff. It's not based off of that, the way that this isn't applicable to projects.
correct.
So do we see anything under practical examinations that needs to be changed?
So just from a practical, sorry, on the words, application, who is under the fit testing documentation? We're not sending that to the office if I host a live fire.
No.
So how are we enforcing it?
So I sign an attestation
I know,
for Madison County when I send people.
right,
their-
but that's usually their work form.
Correct.
Brentwood, we, in Knowlesville, we just keep the forms in the station. If we go over there and train, we file. I'm just, how do we all know from 1910-134, federal law, they should be fit tested. Again, if we have it in here, documentation from an authorizing fit testing entity, that for one, I don't define that, but two, you're not getting it. I don't know why it's in rule if we can't enforce it. Now, again, I had a kid leave a training burn one Saturday morning because he came from another agency and they allowed him to have a beard, and I didn't. There's facial hair in the ceiling surface. He came back, he went to Smapco, bought him a cheap bit, he was bleeding. He came back and with a clean face. Now it just hacked up, but that's on the AHJ.
Right, so right now we're talking about the fit testing verification form, right? It just says is to be completed. It doesn't say it has to be submitted to the commission office. It just has to be completed and kept on file for where that testing event took place.
Have to show up too with some kind of form saying that they've had all the 1403 training topics before they do a live burn as well. Is there anything that says that? Never mind. Show it.
Now, Jeff may require it. I haven't seen anybody at TFAC. I mean, but the other thing is, if Hornwall calls, says, who's an authorized fit testing entity? We say it right here. We can't define it. I'm playing devil's advocate, right? We all know what we mean, but maybe that should just be, they're in compliance with NFPA 1910, not in, how you putting a standard in, OSHA 1910-134 is the standard on that. It requires it.
It should be up to the OC department to maintain those records.
Right. And maybe I'm just getting too far in the weeds there. It's always been funny. There's not a magic list out there that says what is a fit testing entity. You afford a port account machine, you're a fit testing entity, and most if a department has spent the $8,000, that's who we'll go use.
So do we want to take number 2 out?
Well, I mean, it's good for the fire chief. I mean, are we, okay, from a legal standpoint, as the fire commission, if something happens, who's producing the paperwork? Who's testing that?
I would say it would be the location of the testing.
Like at a test event, we make them show their driver's license.
Right.
We see that.
Right, but at a live burn,
It's still being sanctioned by us. I don't know, I may be going too far.
In item B, it says no one shall be allowed to participate once you have that fit testing documentation.
And where does that go? Now, most of the time, between bigger departments, if Oak Ridge is going to Knoxville, you probably send some.
I think.
The chief wouldn't let them come.
I think this is
Without
something that should stay, but then create a policy,
Well, I know the policy.
right? But have a policy of how that documentation is handled. Right? And so then it would come on to your office to get with the regional burn, because we should have a list of all the burn sites. And it should be put in.
Bringing us some new news here.
Right, but it should be, communicated to them that, hey, these are gonna be the pieces of documents per rule that you need to make sure you have on file for your event.
Heather, when we were looking at the policy and procedure documents, there's something when they apply for a live burn, they have to have a roster and there's like an attestation form. Is this as easy as just having that line added to the attestation form?
It probably is in there.
Josh. Hold on, Josh, don't talk. All right,
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, sorry. I was jumping back and forth between 2 calls, so I'm entirely with you all now. is, that I was gonna agree that attestation form would be a good place, but, if you just reference the, 29 CFR, there is required period, and deleted everything after that for the next 3 paragraphs, I mean, would that not say what you're saying right there? That you need to be in compliance with OSHA on that, and if you've got somebody that pops up that's not, it gives you, at least a bullet point to deal with it, but it, having 3 paragraphs on it, maybe we are overcomplicating it a little bit.
Oh, yeah, then look at B, C, and D,
Yeah,
which is all in 1910-134.
correct. David also has information on it.
So, I mean, the first line of 3A probably says everything that we want to say,
That's right. Yeah, sorry, yeah. It's true, you could just have everything just 3.
Just redline everything.
Well, I think you still need, do you need 1? 2, not some freelancing. The signature of the fire chief for the
Oh,
sponsor.
yeah,
I think so, because somebody could go around the chief.
that's what I'm saying with the documentation of a fit test taking place in the previous 12 months. So David had his hand up too.
Go, David.
Okay, so I have the live fire training request form pulled up. The first page is instructions, and it refers to all students must meet NFPA 1403. All participating training shall meet 1910-134. All of that is in this application. On the page we actually mail in for approval, it has 7 different things that says it's required to have turned into the commission, and those items are not on that list. So when we fill this form out, we're supposed to be following all of those guidelines. I will say you having in the rules that they can't have beers makes it easier on departments, because a lot of departments interpret OSHA that it may not interfere with the face mask, that as long as they get a seal, they're good. And I don't know any instructors on live fire that let people have beards. I've done the same thing. I send a lot of people back to the back locker room with a dry big razor to shave if they want to do training.
Seven things that he lists, he said it just says each department agency shall maintain copies of the following documentation.
David, so that attestation.
Lower your
form
hand, David.
Does,
Thought that
My bad.
Hold on, Josh. Hold on. All right, go, Josh.
David, that attestation form does include that the firefighter meets that standard of what the fire chief is attesting to.
Yes, the page that we mail in for the request states that each department agency shall maintain copies of the following documentation: copies of all paperwork submitted for air quality if it's an actual live burn, all reports and documentation pertaining to NFPA 1403, everything on the burn structure, clear titles if it's a building, certificate of insurance if it's a building, asbestos abatement if it's a building, and a copy of this approval letter. It does not specifically have in there, which we can just add a number to those 7 for NFP or OSHA.
But on what, I don't think it needs to be sent in, but on what the fire chief is signing, is he attesting that the firefighter meets that OSHA requirement?
For Madison County and Jackson Fire, yes, we make the fire chief sign an internal form that we created that this individual has met the minimum training requirements of at least the 1664 and mass fit test and all of that.
Good, but I thought there was a similar form for the fire academy.
It's on the instructions on the first page when you open up the application that All students must meet prerequisite 1403, and all participants shall meet OSHA 1910, but OSHA 1910 is not on the page that we sign and send in.
Question back in a fit tested and an SCBA fit testing verification form. Does that exist? Probably not.
No,
It
we
makes
made
no
those
sense.
forms up internally. It's not on this form.
I think David just said those are in-
Well, that's his internal form, but we say it right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Like we have a form. We don't, that I know of. Now, there's a form, well, burn, like he's talking about. But you've got the asbestos requirements, you've got the.
What documents these?
But I think in 1910-134, I know there's some chiefs that take some liberty right there. But it says no hair shall be in the, where the sealing surface touches. It says it in the standard. Now, some say that if I can get a seal, that doesn't matter. That's not in the rule. You know, you talk about the old guys that say, well, I can put some salve or petroleum jelly and that, well, I may not disagree. They're now positive pressure. We don't have an old Scott 2A that you can, there's no, you can't flip the switch to go from positive pressure to demand. It's all positive pressure. Now you're gonna lose your air pretty fast if you don't have that seal. But yeah, that's where, again, an AHJ is gonna do what an AHJ is gonna do. Where he and I, you won't let him in. Blank might, because all of his people might have beards. Up in East Tennessee, let's say it's in East Tennessee. We see a lot of guys on fire trucks with beards.
Well, I'll add, if you don't mind, I'll add, we've had a lot of chiefs and individuals complain, well, when we send people other places, they let them do with beards, and we refer back to the commission rules. So a lot of us like that being in the rules.
Okay, well, you could have a drop that verification form, because we don't necessarily have one.
Red line.
Okay,
Can you just include the fire chief's signature attesting?
and then number 2 is, move B is 2, just, yeah, and then cut the rest of it.
So do you want to take out documentation from an authorized fit test?
There's no such thing. I mean, if you have a port count machine and you got a thumb drive and a computer, you've got a list. That's, I mean, Knowlesville didn't own a machine, Brentwood didn't own a machine, the county bought one, so why would we all buy one for $8,000? We're going, Williamson County's testing all of this.
So do we want to keep B, no one shall be allowed to participate unless the fit test is documented?
Yeah, and you might just move that to your, is A and B, or yeah, A and B, yeah, something like that.
So to that point. So maybe opening a can of worms that needs to be at a later date or whatever, but if we don't have a means to track that the students participating in live fire have completed the 1403 topics. So right in the standard, it says prior to being permitted to participate in live fire training evolutions, the student shall have received training to meet the minimum job performance requirements for firefighter 1 and NFPA 1001 related to the following subjects, and then there's the 11 subjects. From a liability standpoint, if we're not verifying that students have met those requirements, I mean, we've gone into the weeds with the fit testing part, right? But if we're not checking that the students have done these 11 topics and somebody, God forbid, gets hurt, who's the liability of that fall on if there's no verification method or process?
So is there there's a class for live burn before you do the live burn?
Nope. So safety, fire behavior, portable extinguishers, personal protective equipment, ladders, fire hose, appliance and streams, overhaul, water supply, ventilation, forcible entry, and building construction. All 11 of those topics fall under the firefighter 1 curriculum to get that certification. 1403 says at a minimum, you've had to have been taught, and it doesn't give an hour. So 1 hour, 10 hours, whatever that looks like. But those 11 topics have to have been covered before I'm allowed to go into a live fire training evolution.
Okay, so do those things get covered in 1664.
That'll defer to somebody that knows.
That's what it is. That's its target. It's really 80 hours, but we call it 1660. That whole misnomer's been a millstone around our neck.
Intro and basic firefighting.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So before someone can do a live burn,
we're supposed to have done that.
is there proof that they've done those two things?
They are supposed to provide us proof that they have completed both of those classes.
But the only one probably checking that, if we're being honest, is TFAC. If I host a burn in Brentwood, for example, because we did 70 of them, and I submitted my paperwork for a number, that's a term, we want a number. We want this burn to count for somebody's live fire one, practical, or fire two, if it's got a stairwell. Of course, that's probably bad example, because we're gonna hold the line. I can't tell you what, let's just not even name a department, is gonna do, what that chief's gonna be willing to sign off on. I mean, it's state law that they have 1664. And
They're submitting the approval to be able to teach those courses to us. So they're telling us that they are going to cover
those
topics.
And that list came from 1403, nozzles, hoses, stream application,
All of those.
ventilation. It's very basic. That's where intro, what do we call it? Intro and what?
Basically.
Basic, yeah, instead of 1664.
When they submit for do y'all not get verification that they've had the intro and basic? Any type of class
What do you, I'm not
for the
understanding.
live burn?
So, no,
It's not on the form.
we don't know. They teach those. We don't look at that until they actually get to the
Fire one test.
testing component. We're just telling them that you have to have completed all of these things before you're allowed to test, so.
And if they've got and once they get a certificate, let's say they do it at TFACA, they do it in Knoxville, they do it in Memphis, they could have a live fire form verification done. And you know what assuming does, but we assume they had the prerequisites. I'm talking about even for me, for a guy that comes over from Williamson County to train in a burn house. I assume, because the chief said he did, that he was ready, or she. How would we enforce it if we make it a rule? I mean, it could add a mountain of paperwork to the office.
So, can I just say something real quick? When we opened up 3 and 4, it was only to do minor adjustments, so we can come back to it later on. Can we stay on track with that, so that way we're not overloading, legislation and legal and holding up our real changes that we really need to make?
I say it's time to break until 10:30. We've been at it almost an hour and a half already.
Just-
Coffee.
I know what y'all want though, in this
Oh,
section
yeah,
3.
sure.
I redlined 2 things. And I assume I'll be leaving everything else, section 3. We need to make the other change.
So to Stephen's point, Inspector 2, if that's still in there, that needs to come out.
Where is Inspector 2?
It was in that list David read off.
Okay,
David,
then I've got it. Do we want it to be deleted completely or just the word projects added? Right now, I just have the word projects added.
Inspector P should be completely gone.
Because there would be no Inspector 2.
All right, now we can take a break.
Heather, it may have just said inspector. I thought I saw inspector 1 and 2 somewhere.
That's one, two. Hey, Z brought us down. Yeah, we're ready. You call back to order the Rules Subcommittee of the Tennessee Firefighting Commission. Still in chapter 4.
So we wrapped up on number 3. I took out the 1987 thing. We discussed that. I don't believe there's anything else we need to address in chapter 4.
Yeah, under practical, yeah. Yeah,
No, okay. What do we?
it talks about the completion course prerequisites submitted mission minimum 2 weeks prior to the examination day. And to be consistent, I think was.
Yes.
Prior to.
That's one of the things we've done in the past is allowed things to stay in one place, but took it out in other places, and then we start contradicting ourselves.
Ten F, you threw me off. Maybe I'm in.
Yeah, you're an old book.
Yeah.
That's the only 2 places the weeks are referenced.
Okay.
Inspector 2 is not listed in chapters 1 or in chapters 3 or 4, so we're good there.
I think it may have came up when you read the project list.
And it's also on an internal form that we'll update.
Go to 6.
Save our work in 24, so no person. Six, the red lines are updated from the last meeting. We took out all of the standards that went to 1010. We added the new standards, we renumbered accordingly. I had one question. Are we keeping 1081, 1403, and 1500? And do those have updated editions?
1403 is not updated just yet. That's on a consolidation plan. It's kind of in the chute now to be redone, along with a couple of others. Now, 1403 is also not a pro-qual, professional qualification standard. Like, so 1010 tells us what we have to do for practical skills for the certifications of firefighter, driver, operator, whatever. 1403 is a standard on training, what those live fire training evolutions look like. So it's kind of a point of reference as opposed to kind of like the blurb that I read earlier that they had to meet 1403, 1001 kind of deal. So it's more of a point of reference as to how the training evolution should be done. So if we're conducting live fire training evolutions, I would recommend that the 1403 stick in there just as a point of reference. 1081 will be what y'all want to do. And what was the other one you asked?
1500.
1500 is the occupational safety and health. It's also not a certifying standard. There's nothing in 1500 that we certify to, but it is kind of what outlines all of the safety and the health type stuff for departments and the whole 9 yards. So it's more of a point of reference like the 1403. So that would just be preference to leave in there.
All right. we came down to the progression. Last time we took out these 3 lines. And then we discussed CONCOM and working on how we want the progression to look from HMA through firefighter 2.
So I sent an email out to all the West Tennessee fire chiefs with an idea that I had for what this might look like. And I've gotten a lot of feedback on both sides of the fence. But before I go into what we covered, I'd like to see what the other members of the subcommittee came up with.
Do we want to wait? David, back in?
And
Chairman Windrow stepped out, so we'll wait just a moment to come back to the progression chapter. Going down to reciprocity. Section B and renumbered accordingly. Same thing here in section 3, we took out subsection B and renumbered accordingly. Just to finish up reciprocity, the rest of the language we added there had to do with IFSAC and Pro Board, educational incentive pay, and we took out subsection 7 and renumbered accordingly. Going back now, Chairman Winder is back in the room. We can talk about progression.
So Chairman, as you were out, I stated that I had sent an email out to all the West Tennessee fire chiefs, getting feedback on what my idea of what the progression schedule would look like. And in the responses that I've received, it's been both sides of the fence. So before I go into mine, I'd like to hear what the other members of the committee had come up with.
So we had discussed not having a waiting period between HMA, HMO, firefighter 1 and firefighter 2. It's kind of where we left off.
So I think it was kind of a unanimous agreement for the most part that we are all in agreement to do away with it for that. It's when we start getting into the higher levels, such as the officer level series and things of that nature, of where do we keep it? Do we add? What do we do? And I know with some of the conversations that I've had with some of the chiefs in the Middle Tennessee area, for the most part, they like that we have some kind of gap in between them. Now, there was some that were for adding, some were fine with the 30-day, but they like to use us kind of as a crutch. I hate to use that word, but letting us kind of be the bad guy and setting that standard, because instead of it being an AHA decision or whether they, but also something that was mentioned too was if we do put a longer period of time, such as the years in between the officer level series, could we possibly make this a waiverable item? Whether it have to come before the board or if it's at the discretion of the director. And then I present that to the board at a meeting, because there are instances and cases where a said person may get promoted to a chief level and they need to acquire those levels of certification much faster than having to wait, these years in between that testing. So that was some of the discussion that I had with individuals within the Middle Tennessee areas.
Something we had typed out last time was firefighter 2 and then a 3-year waiting period between fire instructor 1. So that's another conversation we could discuss.
That's current practice.
Well,
so.
it's 3 years from
Entry,
entry
yeah.
fire to service. So, yeah, big difference. So if it's 3 years from their last certification, 3 years from entering fire service, apples and oranges. But like I said, I'd like to hear what either Commissioner Solomon, Chairman Windrow, or even Commissioner Cobb, who I believe's on the call, or he was.
I think it's a mix.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. So.
Somebody's talking?
No, he's in one area.
Okay.
I'm like you, I see it both ways. Today's workforce, good or bad. I mean, the day they start, they want to know, when am I going to be a lieutenant or driver? When am I going to be a lieutenant? When am I going to be the chief? I mean, they come in and want the chief's job,
Right,
right
so,
out of, they're 20 years old.
so hearing this, let me now go into what I came up with in the survey that I sent out to the fire chiefs. I'll actually just read you the email in full. My name is Bill Scott, and I am a commissioner and vice chairman for the Tennessee Commission on Firefighting Personnel and Standards. We in the Fire Commission are working very diligently to fix Chapter 6 and 7 in our rules. Chapter 6 covers our adopted NFPA standards along with certification progression, and Chapter 7 covers the Education Incentive Program. In our last 3 subcommittee meetings, we have made great strides in streamlining these rules so that they make sense once passed by legislation. The question that I would like for you to send out to all of the West Tennessee fire chiefs, because I sent this to the chiefs. If the fire commission changed the progression steps for between certifications, how would it affect your department? One of the ideas that is floating right now for consideration is this. HMA Firefighter 2, no wait period to complete testing. Currently, there's a 30-day wait, except between HMA and HMO, which can be tested on the same day. For PDO, AADO, or FAO, 1 year from the date of achieving Firefighter 2. Fire Instructor 1, 3 years from the date of achieving Firefighter 2. Fire Officer 1, 2 years from the date of achieving Fire Department Instructor 1. Incident Safety Officer, 1 year from the date of achieving Fire Officer 1. Fire Officer 2, 1 year from the date of achieving Incident Safety Officer. Fire Officer 3, 1 year from the date of achieving Fire Officer 2. Fire Officer 4, 1 year from the date of achieving Fire Officer 3. Basically, to get the Fire Officer 4, you could be looking at about 9.5 years inside the fire service before you would be able to test for that certification. Okay. Currently, there's a 30-day wait between progression, except for Instructor 1. This is at 3 years after entering the fire service. All of the other certifications is a 30-day wait. This means that we can have a person enter the fire service and within 48 months obtain their fire officer 4 level. Please email me your thoughts on this. Please email your thoughts on this to me or attend the next rules subcommittee meeting via Teams or in person on July 10th at 9 a.m. Respectfully, Bill Scott, Vice Chairman. So as I started talking to the different departments in West Tennessee about this, like I said before, it's both sides of the fence. They can understand where we need to have some type of wait periods, but it also, one of the reasons why I did this was because a lot of departments operate off of CDPs, career development plans. So with a career development plan, it's now tied to money. And a lot of the departments utilize, they have to get a certification each year. So one of the things after having these conversations, I had the instructor 3 years from achieving Firefighter 2. A lot of the departments, Firefighter 1 would be in the first year, Firefighter 2 may be the second year. Then the third year can be the driver. Then the fourth year can be the instructor. Okay. So it still falls within that 1 year between each piece of separation. But But after also talking to Director Zimmerman yesterday, we talked about the waivers. If we have those circumstances where the AHJ says, hey, I have this person that I need to move through testing a little bit quicker because of pending promotional opportunity, we would have that in a waiver form to where the fire chief can request that waiver for this individual to speed up that testing piece. So
Josh, go ahead.
Hey, I think, the progression ideas that y'all have discussed, I think make a lot of sense for departments to have roles on. But I just don't think make a sense for the commission to have roles on. You talked about people coming in the department, and wanting to know when they're going to be chief. Well, in some volunteer departments, they are going to be chief in a year or 2 years. There's not, if we're speaking on average, they're not even going to be there in 9 years. So, I know it's hard to apply a standard that's, really helpful to both the career and the volunteers, but my question for the commission would be just what benefit or role is there in the commission setting, any of these delays? I can think back to, I did Officer 1 and 2 in 2020, right in the middle of COVID at the academy. It got rescheduled a half dozen times, and trying to get 30 days in between our, Officer 1 and Officer 2, testing dates, class dates turned out to be a huge challenge that there was no reason or benefit to do that to the firefighters that were trying to make it through that. There were 3 or 4 volunteers there. There were 3 or 4 career guys there who their departments would not send them, so they were doing it on their own time. I do think it makes sense to have a progression. I just don't think it makes sense for it to be in our rules. I think that's it.
When you say the word achieving, do you mean testing for or receiving the certificate?
receiving the previous certification level. So they have to achieve the certification of Fire Officer 1. And then it's 1 year from that date to get their incident safety officer.
And is that date of receiving the certification level within our control, or do we have to get a form back from IFSAC that says you're
No,
achieved?
the date that they pass
The
both
date?
of their testing pieces
Okay,
is the date that is printed on their certificate.
that's what I needed to know. Thank
So
you.
that date would be the reference point for what I'm talking about.
Awesome.
Shirok, you have something?
Yeah, I was listening to everything that was being said, and I like the idea of the waiting period because somebody can come in and just knock out a bunch of these certs all at once, but necessarily doesn't have the experience to back them. I really like the idea that we already had in place the 3 years before the fire instructor, because they've got to have some experience in order to get up and start instructing other people. But I also understand how if we hold the information, the education back from people such as volunteers and others, how that will impede their ability to handle situations. So I like the 3 years at fire instructor. And Bill, to your statement about them adding classes or needing certification, there's also rope in there that they can throw in if they're needing to add some more certs before they progress on. I don't know if I just don't know about that after Fire 1, if we need to wait. that long. That's all. I'm just thinking through this.
Well, because currently it's 3 years from the date entering the fire service. And that means that they could go ahead and be on a roster at a volunteer department today. Not be active, but they could be on the roster. And then in 16 months, 18 months, call it 2 years just for good math, all right? They get hired by a department. Now they're actually starting to get that experience of being in the fire service. 1 year from that hire date, they can now get their instructor certification with 1 year of experience. And now we're saying that they can go ahead and mind you, this is a blanket and we can't cherry pick it. But now we're giving them the certification that they can go ahead and teach whatever they're certified up to.
Yep. 3 years from their fire chief for instructor. That will, if we put that in, that puts a hold on somebody from really flying through things. Are we saying they have to have that safety officer before they can get fire two?
Fire officer 1 is a prerequisite for incident safety officer.
But are we saying they have to have that incident safety officer before fire two?
No.
What was?
Oh, no, I just had that thrown in there as a separation between 1 and 2. Because once you achieve officer 1, then you're eligible to go ahead and test for incident safety officer. So just to create that separation between officer 1 and officer 2, I dropped that in there.
But it wouldn't be a prerequisite for fire two.
No, not for officer 2. No.
Okay.
Always default to, I'm gonna default to waiting positions because, and I understand Josh's point, but do we want a guy that he's driven the wrecker, so he's worked some wrecks, and now he's the chief? I mean, I have to disagree with that. Our title is professional standards in education. We have to, I get it, you got a lot of volunteer chiefs because they said, I'll do it, they got it. That's a local decision. They can give that to them without a certification.
Well, the thing too is something you just touched on. The AHJ wants to have authority over everything, but then they want to turn back to us and use us as the bad guy when they don't want something to happen.
Right.
But this is where the AHJ can write their SOGs where
it's just like this usually comes up to us, like to the waiver requests. It's usually the 15 to 20 year guy that hadn't done fire officer 2 yet. Now they want a waiver for him. He's had 20, most of the time they've had 15 years to get this. Now they want us to waive it when all of a sudden it's important. Well, it wasn't. It's just me. That's not the commission. Why hasn't it been important the first 15 years? They've had 15 years. These are usually seasoned people that are wanting the waivers. It's not the fast burner. Occasionally it's somebody coming in from out of state, but with reciprocity, they get it anyways. If they came from a pro board or IFSAC state, they don't even have to wait on us. But with that said, I'm gonna look at the other side of the coin just a second.
So would this push people to go that route?
To go to Alabama?
To go the reciprocity route?
Very much so.
But I'm gonna look at the other side of the coin right a minute. An 18-year-old can go to paramedic school and be the highest level on the scene at age 20. And a crusty 40-year EMT or EMTB or IV, a 20-year-old can be the paramedic on the scene. They're the most qualified. So I mean, I can see both sides of that, because you can jump right to paramedic. You don't have to stop anywhere. You can, well, I guess you have to have EMT before you can be
Yeah.
paramedic, but that's what, a semester or a
So
accelerated
it's-
course.
One,
There's probably money waiting time between the two.
There's no waiting time.
I think that's important.
but EMT basic's a term, advanced is a term, and then paramedics a year.
2 years.
So after 2
1
years.
to 18 months, yeah.
So, but Randall Beaver's been
Yeah.
waiting patiently.
But
Randall?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for having this today and allow us to speak to you guys and give us your point of views on this. So, and I'll just cut to the chase with you guys. I had a chance to speak to a few people on this over the last couple of days. And I think I can speak for everybody I've spoken to when I say this. We, as the authorities having jurisdiction, or the training officers that are putting forth these career development plans and all the things that we do to try to develop good officers, good firefighters, good drivers, we're just not interested in having the commission put forth a career development plan that may or may not agree with what we're doing now and what we'll do in the future. And that's just all I wanted to say to you guys. And again, thank you for allowing us to be here.
David?
He took it down.
Ah,
I just want to make one statement that was brought up about reciprocity. Reciprocity is a problem we've had in the past when we make rules like this. If we do, then don't make it where someone can come in from another state and be so far ahead of someone else. Reciprocity's got to go by the same rules. And other than that, everyone I've talked to is in the same line with what Beaver just said.
He just hasn't put it back down.
Now, after hearing, because everyone who spoke, I've had conversations with them. And so, the question is, what does progression look like? And I wanted to make sure I did my due diligence by sending out that email and communicating and saying, hey, how will this affect your departments? Because remember when we sat down to do this, all the rules that we wanted to go ahead and change, we wanted to do, first of all, did it make sense? If we're not doing it, why is it a rule? And we want it to be logical. That was our goals when we sat down to do this. So in a progression format, we have that 3 years for the instructor. Okay, which now the question is, do we leave it as 3 years of entering the fire service? Or do we change that to 3 years from instructor 1 and still have that as a threshold? And then leave the 30-day or do a 6-month or do away with any wait period. But remember, if we do away with any type of wait period, here's the problem. I have Johnny, who is a volunteer at ABC Volunteer Fire Department, but he also works for me. By my guidelines, I'm not permitting him to do his Officer 1 until his 5th year on the job. He wants to get it at year number 3.5 because he's already got his instructor. He goes around and circumvents me by going to his volunteer department and testing through that. I can't stop it. Just like I can't stop him from going to Alabama Fire College and doing it. So where are we at? What do we do?
But
That's the question.
Why would you want to stop
You
that?
can't stop it if you don't have to recognize it at your department, right? You wouldn't have to, honor his Unless, I don't know, he took a, officer 3 or officer 4, you wouldn't necessarily have to promote him to that because he got the class, because you would have your own SOPs or policy that would
Right.
say, yeah, I see it. And I'm torn on this, you know, when I first heard Josh's explanation, I said, you know, that sounds good. We should let the departments handle that. Just give the classes. I can see that side. I can
Right.
see how it can cause a little trouble.
Right.
And y'all are telling me that's what Alabama does? You can go down there and take anything in Alabama?
Pretty much, as long as they go down there and they meet their prerequisites and yeah, it's,
Yeah, I get it, David.
they are in second pro board and they bring it back and we will recognize it.
Yeah.
So, yes, absolutely. So it's gotta be,
Well, you want the fire department had a policy that you had to be here 6 years before you could achieve a level of firefighter 3 or officer 3. That wouldn't matter if they took that class.
that's their policy.
That's
They
their
can make that choice whether they recognize it or not. And back to Randall's point, you know, it sounds like, you know, with the people he spoke with, they're not interested in us setting a progressive professional development program for them. They want their own avenue to be able to do that. Now, again, back to your point, they can choose to recognize it or not.
Yeah, there are two different audiences in play here from being both. I was a training officer for 15 years and a chief for a number of years. Chiefs want this body to put the brakes on. Training officers don't. Let's just be honest. If you brought this up next week at the Southeastern Fire Chiefs, they want progression. Most of them. That's the audience. So it's like if he's told that the tail, he's got the rope of the elephant. If I'm touching the side, it's leather wall. I mean, everybody's perspective is at a different point. It leaves it to the 9 of us, so to speak, and the staff to decide what does that look like. And again, my most recent hat was chief, so I like some breaks in there. Or some of it says it maybe. I mean, everything in life has progression. I can't take English 4 until I take English 1.
But I think if you leave the break in there between, back to what Commissioner Scott was talking about, between instructor 1, you are building breaks in there at some point.
The problem is, and I hate that, again, not to belittle it, the professional departments already have breaks. Like my two recent departments, you had to be there 3 years before you could ask to talk about being an engineer driver.
Mm-hmm.
You had to be there 5 years and be an engineer. You weren't talking about officer seat. You just didn't. You could do an acting role, but you couldn't promote. But that's not and again, a volunteer department, you get some go-getter that's been there 2 years that makes every fire, he's probably going to be an officer. Because his flame may be gone in another year, he may not even still. So I'm a volunteer now myself, so I get the whole.
Again, I get both sides of
I do
it,
too.
but at the same time, I don't know if we should be regulating what fire departments should be doing on the progression.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody can come in here and pass 5 tests a day, what do I got to say about it?
I don't mean that they're gonna be out there being a captain on their truck, so
Do y'all know how other states treat this? Do you know do you remember how North Carolina treated something like this?
North Carolina, you had, once you hit your, firefighter 2, you had a 3-year wait before you could take instructor 1. After that, the only other requirements, time related, were fire officer. Fire officer 1 was 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 9 years. Outside of that, like the FLSC stuff, the driver operator stuff, there was no,
Would it be confusing? I mean, asking this not as a rhetorical question, I don't know the answer. Would it be confusing to have weights? And I guess we do have weights for certain things now and no weights for other things. I mean.
So just to kind of, the wait period between HMA and HMO there's an exemption for that one. There's no wait. They can take those in the same day. Ropes awareness and operations, same thing. There's an exemption for that. Everything else right now, for the most part, is a 30-day wait in between the testing. So you have to wait 30 days from firefighter 1 to firefighter 2. The other one, that's the exception, is the fire instructor. And that it's worded now that you have to wait 3 years from the time you enter the fire service. It's not tied necessarily to,
They start,
well, you still have to have your firefighter 2. So if you waited 3 years to take your firefighter 2, you still have to wait 30 days in between fire 2 and instructor 1. So that one kind of the anomaly. You've got 2 waiting periods on it that you've got to adhere to.
Heather, where is that in rule? Because all I'm seeing is this paragraph.
It's actually, it'll be in 3 and 4, depending upon
Like
in the
individual
cert. And that's back to what you and I talked about, where you kind of got to talk about,
Okay.
and we can revisit that another time.
And again, you guys, I know, I don't know if my position on the commission is non-voting. I know I'm one of the members, but I don't know if it's non-voting or voting. I wouldn't vote on this anyway, but I think you guys know so much more about this than I do. I'll throw out one more thing just to please consider. If you decide to, I guess, stay where we're at and keep these mandated time periods between classes, then, I guess this gets back to kind of my philosophy on government, period, then you are making that decision for everybody out there, how they're gonna do it. If you say, we're gonna remove all time periods, you're giving that decision to them locally and letting them make that decision then. I kind of lean that way, but you guys know so much more about the fire service than I did. I'll tell you that's how I lean, but I can see y'all making a decision either way on this one.
One thing to keep in mind when Alabama Fire College got brought up, Alabama Fire College is a business.
Yeah.
They are in the business of making money. So if I limit when you can come and take a class, I'm hurting my pocket.
Yeah.
Bucks County Community College in Pennsylvania, the exact same way.
business.
Being the governing body here, you're looking out for the entire state. We're not trying to make a buck here or there. North Carolina, their commission was the same way. So keep that in mind when Alabama may be the flagship that a lot of programs want to look like, but they're a business. They're not a governing board like you guys are, or most states. So
Now, are they sanctioned by the state or anything? Or are they just a private college almost?
they have, I want to say, and don't quote me on this, but they have a commission or a board that they report to.
Okay.
And that Matt Russell, as the director of Alabama Fire College, answers to a board. But to that point, however that plays out, they're still a business.
Yeah, yeah.
Alabama Fire College is they're running programs all around the world on DoD installations and things like that.
Just like Teeks.
Correct. So
Texas A&M does it too.
when we're gonna compare what we think we may want to do here, keep that in mind that you want to compare apples to apples and not apples and oranges.
And again, are we the standard setting board? We're setting the standard, so it can be, you don't want a waiting period. Most recruit academies, as a fire, now put my fire chief pat back on, when they leave the academy, I want them to be firefighter 1 and 2, HMA, HMO. I've sent them down for 10 to 16 to 20 weeks, depending on which academy you get them in. Because if you send them to Metro, it's 20 weeks or whatever, it's forever.
15, 16 years.
Yeah, so we know TFAC is creep to 11, it's probably gonna be 11, 12, 14.
It's 10.
It's 10 today. Franklin's is about 16, but they do some other things in the class. They come out like certified car seat techs, they get some extra things. Again, I'm one vote of 9, and again, I guess I'm the oldest commissioner. I'm always gonna be partial to some wait period. That doesn't make it right. I'm not saying that makes it right. It's just my opinion. Again, I can't take English 4 in high school before I take English 1. I can't. Most departments, even if they're not going to send them to some advanced class until they have 16. Basic and intro. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't send a rookie to advanced fire investigation unless they came to you work from again, there's always exceptions. They came to you from some insurance company where they were an investigator. Yeah, and that's the other thing. You might hire a subject matter expert, and man, waiting 3 years could be brutal. Now, it doesn't mean you wouldn't let them teach. They just wouldn't have that credential. They're a subject matter expert.
Well, to your point though, you were talking about like English 1 to 4. We're not taking out that you have, like, you still have to have officer
Progression.
1,
Right.
officer 2, officer, like, that's,
Yeah,
you
that's
can't do away with that. We're just talking about
the wait periods in
the
between.
time in between testing. Like, and one thing I want to throw out there, even currently right now, TFACA hosts a dual fire 1 or fire officer 1 and 2 class. Now it's broke up over, several weeks, but there are classes right now even that are combination classes. So,
Shirok, did you have something?
I was gonna point out, I'm looking online, Kentucky does have a waiting period. 3 years for instructor 1, and it looks like you gotta have 6 years for instructor 2. Just since that question was asked, I haven't found anything on officer yet. But I'm in favor of a waiting period between fire 2 and officer. And something Kentucky does is they have continuous service written in theirs as well.
Our mission is to set the standards. I mean, that's our core mission. Now, are some of them maybe too long? Don't know too many departments that want to accelerate, at least career, that want to accelerate their people through. But they can set their policies. I mean, like say 3 years to driver for us. I mean, volunteer, if they've got a CDL, they're probably driving day 1. You might take them out and ride with them, but
So does everyone agree that between HMA and firefighter 2, there should be no waiting periods?
Correct.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
that's our first official change.
We've heard Kentucky, we've heard North Carolina. There's that 3-year in there for instructor. What does that look like? Is it 3 years from the date they enter the fire service? Or 3 years from the date they get their fire 1,
so
fire 2?
from the office standpoint, I want to talk on that because it's a whole lot easier for us to track that when there is an official date tied to a cert, where it gets kind of convoluted is when you say enters the fire service, because again, back to people not keeping good, accurate records. When we pull up people's data, sometimes people have put 1111111 as their enter on their fire service, and that tells me nothing. So if you decide to tie it to a time frame, I personally would like to see it tied to the date of a cert, whether it be firefighter 1 or firefighter 2.
Legal standpoint, you mentioned earlier about rule policy, like not being able to govern the public kind of deal. With the record keeping issues and things like that, does that date become very, so what I'm looking for, subjective?
Subjective, not objective. Her way would be objective.
And that's kind of like to make it where it's a clean,
So I
no
think
doubt, whatever.
that's what I was asking Commissioner Scott, like achieving, does that mean the day we take the test, the day we get the certificate? Whatever the commission's decision is on how we're marking those dates, if it's tied to a certification, then we just have to pick. We just have to pick what we're calling it and call it. If it's the date of joining the fire service, we count that with the same one with educational incentive pay and BEIP. We've got the 3 years from whatever. That's what we've considered your first day on the job, is what we've counted that as in the past. I don't think we should, if that's the language we're using, the joining the fire service, I don't think we should change it for one thing and not for another. But as far as what you guys, how you guys want to market, that's completely right for rulemaking. However you want to mark those dates.
David,
what
you
you
have-
got?
This goes back to a statement about a CADA staying updated. This kind of out of line with what we're talking about, but just to throw it out there. So some of our departments like me try to keep a CADIS up 100% correct. So when we hire someone from another department, I can send the information to the fire commission. Hey, this individual is now full-time with me. He's still a volunteer with this department he was full-time with or is no longer with this department. And the emails I get back are, we update them to your department, but that other department has to make the change on that.
Right, so that's where that whole date gets convoluted of entering the fire service, because they could have entered the fire service 5 years ago, left 2 years later, and then all of a sudden they just got hired 3 years after that with your department. And now they can go ahead and because they got their firefighter 2 in their 2 years at that volunteer department, now they can go ahead and come on day 1 with you, and per the rule today, can go ahead and test for instructor. Now, that's not counting what internal controls you have at your department, but they can go ahead and register, take a class wherever, and they can go ahead and register and take that test without even having to go through you.
Do all firefighters have a PSID or only departments that participate in a CADIS?
Any firefighter that has taken a TFACA class or has been hired by a department has a PSID.
So at what point in your job as a firefighter, is that a day 1? Could you go off the date that you were assigned a PSID?
I don't think a CADIS is that friendly.
I don't know if I could look to find exactly when they were given a PSID.
Okay.
I know because I've seen it where people have created new accounts and that's what they would put sometimes. They'll put 1111111 instead of putting the actual date that they created it or that they entered first.
Well, it's a cleaner line to say 3 years from firefighter 1. That may force them into 4 or 5 years, which would push down the other, because you can't do fire officer 1 without instructor 1. I mean, if you had that one waiting period, you would at least probably have 5 years of seniority by the time you get to fire officer 1. Because if you don't drag your feet, you'll have your firefighter 1 in 10 weeks. Let's say.
If we took out all weights within 48 months, actually, it would be shorter than 48 months at that point if we took out that 3 year for instructor.
Yeah.
But with that 3 year, it's 48 months, a person can walk in the door and have their fire officer 4.
Couple hands.
Just waiting for
All
people
right,
to
I've
start.
had my hand, hang on. I've had my
Greg.
hand up for a few minutes now, and I'd like to make some comments on this. So, Bill, me and you've talked about this already, and what's highlighted in blue, everybody says they want a fireman to be a fireman, right? If you let them do that right there, that goes beyond what we're trying to accomplish. Back when most of us that are in this conversation right now, we had to wait a year in between, right? So with that being said, 3 years, whether it's fire 2 or the date they come in, however you want to look at it, is too much for an instructor. I've got a 2.5 year driver right now that if he wasn't able to get his PDO, he wouldn't be a driver. He wouldn't be able to progress through the system. Now, it's up to me as the training officer to say that he's ready for that. The AHJ should be over that and be able to say, yes, you can go. Now, I understand going in between departments. I've already dealt with that already. Us here in West Tennessee, we conversate, we talk to each other. If I know firefighter A is from Collierville Fire Department and he's coming to me and he's wanting to test something, I'm gonna call his training officer at Collierville Fire Department. Regardless of how you look at it, you're crippling the firefighters themselves. Yes, they're able to go through the whole system in 48 months, but it should be up to me as the training officer whether they go that far.
So that goes into another playfield. And Greg, like you said, you and I had numerous conversations about this. Currently today, a firefighter in the state of Tennessee does not need approval from their training officer to sign up for a test. They can do it online by themselves without having to go through us.
They do at Millington and they do at Fayette County.
Well, because that's an internal control that you have.
But y'all are trying to put it in rule that they're gonna have to wait this situation. I've got a firefighter right now that's on my shift, that's at work today, that has her PDO. She's only been here 2 years. Because I signed her off and she was good. Now again, that's the authority having jurisdiction. But what y'all are trying to do is cripple me and cripple my people from progressing through the system.
There's no way on PDO, is there?
There's only wait between PDO is from firefighter to PDO.
30 days.
Yes.
30 days
30 days.
from firefighter to the PDO, the driver.
And I want to make a correction. When you're talking about instructor a while ago, you have to have firefighter 2 or journeyman to be able to test for instructor 1.
Yeah, but to test for officer 1, you have to have instructor 1.
Correct.
That's an accreditation model.
That's an FTA requirement.
So that's a slowdown, no matter what we do, you know. I guess if somebody was really good, they could take find them, because we don't allow a double test at any testing event, right? They can't.
Only HMA and HMO and ropes.
That's what I'm saying. I can't sign up for find a test in Dixon and sign up to take firefighter 2 and instructor at the same day. We don't allow that today.
No.
No,
We don't,
because the 30-day window.
Well, 30-day window, and from a practical application, we're not paying the field rep to be there 6 hours, 3 hours for firefighter 1 and 3 hours for instructor. The testing period isn't that long. Because you'd have to give them the allotted time for each test. Not that they take it, but you'd have to plan for it. We don't have any double testing hardly today, unless we know, again, we may know on it. But HMA is only 50 questions.
Correct. And so like at Memphis, they may have 3 or 4 days in a row of testing because of a rookie class or something. So they may have a commission test scheduled Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, and you're gonna license some inspector 1s and
Yeah.
a department that size.
But, in that standpoint, you could test officer 1 today, officer 2 tomorrow, officer 3 on the 3rd day, if you're that gung ho about it.
Gung ho about it.
Yeah.
Josh has.
Josh Evans?
Yeah, I just, what issues are we having now with the way it is now that we're worried about? Again, because I don't think the issue of firefighters progressing too quickly is a real widespread issue. And we know that we're gonna really be limiting some departments with anything we do. And so, I mean, again, in the volunteer world, if we, whether or not they have the certification is not gonna bear upon whether or not they get that role. So now the commission's telling them, I can't get them this certification because they're on a different timeline. They're still going to be in the role. They're just not going to have the certification. But what issues are we, I think what we have right now works pretty well, you know, without some minor tweaks that we've talked about, but what issues are we having with the way it is now?
What brought this to light was a complaint that came through Senator Bailey. He had a constituent that reached out to him and made a complaint between instructor to officer. So that's what brought this whole thing to light in the first place.
So he had a constituent that wanted to take the class and would.
So this individual, I think, was being promoted to a level within their department, and they were trying to get them their levels of certification.
And what could, and our rules didn't allow.
Yes.
How, do you know how active Senator Bailey was in that situation? Did he call? Did he ask questions? Did he say why? Do you remember much about that?
So legal was in, if I'm not mistaken, I think that constituent knew somebody within his office,
Okay.
and that's how the chain of chain. So I know I talked with one of the attorneys. I can't remember which one it was, but there's some correspondence about it.
I thought it was with Candace, with the attorney.
It may have been, okay. I knew it was one of them. I shouldn't remember.
Legislature. Okay.
His district, Florida, White County, does it include Putnam County?
Yeah.
Just trying to think. The probability is high that this is a volunteer in his district.
But
Again,
the
too.
question that prompted this discussion sounds like we're kind of going the other direction from the direction that, you know, Senator Bailey's office was asking us to consider going.
Josh, to answer that, it's just a combination of a couple of things. You know, like Greg pointed out, we want firemen to be firemen. And so like where Greg's heartburn is doing away with the waiting periods in between HMA and firefighter 2. You know, back when, like he said, back when a lot of us went through this so many years ago, we had to do HMA, and then we had to do Fire 1. Then we had to do HMO, and then we had to do Firefighter 2. But there was a wait of 1 year between that Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2, basically creating that journeyman type situation for that firefighter to be able to develop in their skills during that time frame and to learn the job and to be able to do the job. And so what then pushed it even further was that 3 years, because that's a muddied area. Is it 3 years from the, you know, what's it look like from the 3 years of entering the fire service compared to 3 years tied to a date of a certification such as maybe Fire 1, all right? So if a person comes into your department today and they go through a rookie school and they get their firefighter 2 in 6 months from now, 3 years from that date, they can now test their instructor 1, whereas you backdate it 6 months, you're still looking relatively in the same area. The other piece too to look at is in a department, whether or not they recognize the certification or the class is a whole nother ball game too. So if I have somebody in I'll speak of my career development plan because it's very robust and my SOGs follow it. A person in my department cannot get or cannot test for driver until they've been on the job for 3 years with us. And so at that point, if they followed their career development plan, they would already have their driver certification after year 2. they can't test for lieutenant in my department until 5 years in. Well, guess what? Level 5 on my CDP is getting their officer 1, which then makes them promotable. So they have 12 months in that SOG. If they get promoted without that certification, they have 12 months to be able to obtain that certification, provided that they had that class at testing. So, I mean, the thing is, we have departments that say, yes, we need to kind of slow down in some places, but then, you know, let's leave it to the HJ to determine how the rest of that development for that person goes. So the sticky part, once again, going back to, it's a 3-year accreditation piece that has instructor. So it's per pro board and IFSAC that there's got to be that 3-year window. Where does that 3-year window start?
Misunderstood. There's nothing for accreditation. It's
Nothing?
Nothing that says.
No, just
Okay.
North Carolina.
Misunderstood.
Kentucky.
Okay. I misspoke on the 3-year through accreditation, but as like, it's common practice, as you heard Commissioner Cobb say, Kentucky is the 3 years from what date, Commissioner? Commissioner Cobb?
For two, I think.
I think it said fire 1.
He's frozen.
He's froze up. Whereas
This is froze. Yeah, TV's froze again.
Commissioner Cobb?
So it's 3 years. It does not say when it's from in Kentucky. I just found Texas. It says 3 years experience as well.
But it doesn't say from what date. It just
It
says
does not
3
say
years
from-
experience.
Yes. Kentucky says continuous service.
Continuous service.
So to
Yes.
move us along in the balancing act, because once we publish this, we can get feedback,
Right.
and we probably will from both sides.
Right.
Those that want more, those that want less, we know that's gonna happen. We've already talked about taking out the waiting periods. Let's call it the entry level certs. 1, 2, HMA, HMO. If you're at rookie school, you want to just, because some of them are doing HMA, like at week 4 now to make sure they pass it. And
Right.
They're doing HMO at week 7. Whatever.
That's how we-
That's the academy's prerogative. We set that. We put a 3-year wait from firefighter 1, which helps the office really define that line. And we've injected ourselves into the professional standards of the fire service. So they're going to have some experience. And then we could drop out the 1-year waits in between fire officer 2, because then they're going to be at 4 or 5 years. Again, it's an individual decision. So there's a balancing act. We put some standard in there, but we relax some of the overbearing that we might have today. And it should satisfy both sides of the fence there. Again, the chiefs will say, put waiting periods. That would be the bad guy. The training officers and the firefighters, I want to burn up the ladder. Let's try to, I hate to be lukewarm, but we're kind of appeasing both. Because once we say this and it goes out red lines, people can't comment. It doesn't become rules just because we say it now. We take out those wait periods, we put a 3-year period between firefighter 1 cert and instructor. And then they can, they'll be at 4 or 5 years. The progression will be on how they want their career to advance at that point.
Still leave in 30-day window between the testing.
Drop it. Other than that one requirement.
And that, for the sake of ease of the office, that will make that a whole lot easier versus trying to track every single cert and the anomalies.
And we really only have the 5 certs that have that, between officer 1 and 2, officer 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and instructor 1, instructor 2. Those are our waiting periods, right? There's no waiting period for PDO, ADO.
Yes, there is. They have to have 30 days in between their firefighter 1 or 2 or. So yeah, PDO is 30 days for firefighter 1.
So taking out the whole rule, and changing it to read what it says in blue. What else needs to be changed or edited?
Do we need to put an actual date? Say the date they're issued their certificate for Fire One? And that must be included in the application, that IFSAC number?
Back to what Chairman Windrow just said, as far as like taking out and doing away with the 30-day for all, with the exception of the instructor one, then even what is in blue would be a null and void. Pretty much, it would only need to reflect that for the instructor, right? And everything else.
Because the odds are you just mechanical application. If he hosts a test next month, he's not hosting a test again they're gonna have to go find a test. There's not back to back. I mean, you could find back to back days. You might be driving from Memphis to Nashville to Bell Buckle to find because they're not gonna be every day somewhere.
Greg, do you have something?
Yes, for PDO, you only have to have Fire One per y'all's rules.
It would eliminate this whole section altogether. It would live under the instructor requirement.
Fire instructor one section certification, just remove this entirety and just put that one statement.
Or statement firefighter and instructor one.
Because everything else, you already have to have the previous cert, like you can't get Fire Two without Fire One. And it's
I don't want
already,
to take out prerequisite.
Yeah.
This is just about the timing of
The
doing it.
progression.
yeah, because if that's the only waiting period we're gonna have, this is a null and void
Section.
section.
So redline all of this.
And again, we may get so much blowback that we don't know about.
Well, that's what the comment period.
That's what the comment period is
That's,
for.
I mean, you throw it out there, do the best you can, throw it out there and let the people comment.
I mean, I think most of our customers, which our customers are heavily fire training officers
Right.
and firefighters, because the chief's already finished all his certs, for the most, usually. They wanted to be chief, they knew that the day they started, and they've been working on those certs.
I throw in a different opinion of you real quick. So obviously not being from Tennessee, new here to Tennessee, I'm not advocating one way or the other on how to go about this. But having taught Fire Officer 3 and Fire Officer 4 for the DOD, and there's no time requirements for nothing. So you get Firefighter 2 today, you can get Fire Instructor 1 tomorrow, Fire Officer 2 the next, but there's no requirements. Having taught Officer 3 and 4, if we look at it from the student standpoint, fire departments are obviously worried about their career development and career progression for the fire department. But if there's nothing that says a student can't circumvent, they don't need a training officer certification. If a student just decides, I'm gonna just go and do everything, are we setting that student up for success if we allow them to go all the way through? Or should we have, I mean, Chairman, you talked about, we're the standard, right? We set the standards. And if we're not looking out for that student to be prepared, I can tell you more times than once, I've had students sit in my Officer 3 and 4 that were just dead weight. They didn't have the experience. They'd never dealt with a hostile employee or a coworker that needed alcohol treatment. They never understood none of that stuff because they never had to do it. But then they show up in my class and we're figuring out, like, do these things. And they're like, what are you talking about? So I throw that out there just for a different perspective to look at things, because it seems like the majority of the argument is based off of the fire department's career plan, but think about the student.
Review, but a chief should know better than to spend the money if they don't think they're, should come back on the HJ some, because as a training officer chief, I wouldn't spend the money if I knew you'd already failed EMT school 10 times. If you want to go, you're going on your own now.
Y'all may have discussed this and I just missed it. But you could create two different tiers. One tier for those classes that, for a lack of a better word, are strictly skill based, like the rope classes, like the hazmat classes. And with those, no waiting period at all. But then those classes that are more based on, or more toward leadership classes, like officer classes, things like that, have either a waiting period like you have, or make their local training officer or chief sign off before they can take those, and before they could avoid a waiting period. But that's another option.
Well, that's what we have today.
Oh, that's what you have today. Okay.
We have the waiting periods today.
Yeah.
1 year, right, between the officer?
No.
Or is it just
No,
30
30
days? 30 days, okay.
It's just 30 days.
So it's not that cumbersome.
But I honestly don't believe that a lot of people are out here just taking classes back to back to back just as fast as they can.
Well, there's some this class.
I don't disagree that there's some, but I would not. Right, I would not venture to say the majority is out here trying to achieve all officer forward level certs in 1 year.
Sorry, got us switching. Oops. I tried.
So I mean, it's come up in this case once. Are we reacting to one incident to change a policy, or is it time to change the policy? Longstanding policies or rules.
You know, let's back to what Assistant Commissioner Bell was saying. Let's throw it out there and see what the comments are.
Yeah, and again, I've tried to find this middle ground. You know, we'll take these 30 days out and put 3 years from cert, see what the fallout is.
That wraps up progression.
All right, and I'm gonna call for a lunch break because the food's here. We'll come back at 12:30. That seem reasonable?
Chairman,
12:30.
what's your plan for, how late are you planning on working today? I'm just trying to plan.
2 o'clock, I think, ish. No later than?
The next step is just to wrap everything up, put it in a bow, and
Yeah, no later than 2 o'clock, 1400. Probably sooner, but no later than
Okay, and you're coming back at when?
12:30.
Oh.
Our food's here, so it's been delivered. So we'll eat and get ready.
I would have come there if I'd known you were buying lunch.
You know, that's a privilege. All right.
Like investigator could be a standalone if there's no requirements in an FPA.
Okay.
so we're our investigator habits. That has that. Here's materials, incident commander, compliance examiner. Fire marshal. Aircraft rescue, firefighting, driver operator. That was chapter 3. We want to do the same thing for 4.
Can you go back to our driver operator one, the last one there? Second paragraph. Okay, so continue for firefighter 2. And requirements for
You have a one.
airport firefighter.
You
Okay.
have a 1,002 in there that needs to come.
I did.
No, I was making sure that it said the requirements for airport firefighter. That was all.
So do they have to have firefighter too
They have to have firefighter 2.
and airport?
So they gotta have, yep, all the general stuff. They have to have firefighter 2. They have to have airport fire. The general requirements for driver operator, and then the actual airport, like our vehicle driver operator. Not having to jump thing underneath. Yes.
All right, in chapter 4, I have the list of things we're going to add the words projects to, if we've even read out loud. Under general. Go too fast, just stop. Applicants shall have 12 months from the initial testing to complete the written and practical examinations. Did you guys want to make any changes about that? I know we talked about it.
Does projects need to be in that one too? That's the one that they send to, yeah. It's supposed to be finished.
We'll sit there for that 2 hours and not change, and then.
Practicals, projects, and written examinations. So that was the- Individuals on active military service is the next one.
Can I stop? Just real quick. When we utilize the word "and," following practical projects and written, it almost seems like we're saying,
Gotta do all 3
gotta do all 3.
as opposed to and or.
Yeah,
Yep, and say and or.
yeah. In between practical and projects. Because they.
Then that makes it sound like they have the option of one or the other. If they don't, it's either going to be a practical or going to be a project, depending on what they're, and
Practical
which
slash.
certification they're getting, correct?
And everything's got a written exam.
Everything has a written exam.
So if you, I felt there if you kind of do the slash.
Slash project
Yeah.
and written examinations.
Yeah. And like I said, how it's written now, you have to do all 3.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the plural out of written examination. Applicants shall have 12 months from the initial testing to complete a practical slash project and written examination.
Yes. That's what the verbiage should say on all of the ones that have project.
I'll make it out. Okay, military service and disability accommodations. Any changes to the timeline related to military service?
Do we require active order papers? What are they called, David?
Those orders. I mean, do we want to require, like, it's just something else for the office to keep up with?
I think that's the AHJ. Specific additions of the professional standards referred to through this chapter are those adopted in chapter. Good with that. applicants.
It's killing me. Let's see if it just come back. It's crazy. It's
Right,
taking a
so-
lunch break now, I guess.
This is where we talk about the 2 weeks again. Applications for off-campus certification courses must be received by the commission office a minimum of 2 weeks before any.
We,
That was a mistake. There we go. We're gonna move the test validation part to another portion of it. Practical examination shall meet JPRs. Grading. Any changes to grading?
Yeah. We're talking about testing shall be in accordance with the appropriate adopted NFPA standards. Talk about practical examination shall meet, but we don't say anything about written or projects.
The point I made a little while ago, like that one could almost go away. Cause you say everything in the first one
Right.
and you don't mention written exams from the cognitive standpoint. So
I was ignoring you before.
it's okay.
No, I'm kidding.
So just take number 2 out.
So I have a question about the retesting point. So an applicant may not retake the examination until at least 15 days after the initial examination. My initial examination is the very first time I take that test. And if I fail that, essentially I wait my 15 days. And then on my 15th day, 16th day, 17th day, I've essentially met my 15 days from my initial test date requirement. You know what I'm saying? But
Do you want me to say most recent?
I don't know how that should probably read, but by saying my initial test, I get what the intent is. It's the last one that I took. I have to wait 15 days after each time I fail it, kind of a thing. But with it saying initial, that means
Your most recent unsuccessful attempt.
Just say most recent examination, not throw it unsuccessful.
We're not going to inadvertently keep people between HMA and HMO on the same day by putting after the most recent examination. No, we have retake, so that's fine. Examination form. Firefighter 1. Section sub 2, subdivision 2.
it's notification I'm doing on my fire. Not that doesn't, I just,
Firefighter 120 months of live burn.
That's C, or what used to be C.
Two,
That firefighter two, just say practical and written.
it's not on my list for
It's not,
project.
it doesn't have a project.
After June 30th, 2016, live burn, firefighter two, current standard, any change to that? Why is that date?
That one, 424, 112, or 202 went into effect.
On the 120 months? What we're talking about?
On under firefighter two. Practical examination.
Right.
And it says after June 30th, 2016, a live burn practical examination or the firefighter two performance examination shall be based upon the current standard as adopted. Can we just say a live burn practical examination as part of the firefighter two shall be based upon the current standard? Can we take out the date?
It already requires a live burn practical. So it's
So I had a question, just maybe for some clarity and maybe to pull something out. Under the firefighter one, it says applicant shall obtain firefighter one certification within 120 months of completing a live burn practical examination. Firefighter two says applicant shall obtain firefighter two certification within 120 months of successfully completing a live burn practical examination. So does that mean once I do my live burns, I got 120 months to get my firefighter one and firefighter two?
Yeah, we extended, it used to be 3 years.
No, it's
We went to 5 years. Now it's 10 for the volunteer purposes.
so if you have
To
a
try to
live-
get participation up in volunteer first.
So basically, once they do that, they got 10 years.
They
to
got 10
get- okay.
years.
I was having it read the exact same way. I didn't want to, I wanted.
Wait. That's not what it was.
if you have
It was to extend the validity of their live burn for 120 months. Because before it was 36 months.
6 months.
So we extended it to 120 months.
the way we have interpreted this in the office is that your live burn
It's good for 10 years now.
expires after 10 years if you have not tested through fire one or fire two.
Correct. Because where it came from was how often has that standard changed in the past 10 years? And it really hasn't. So that's where that 120 months came from. Because we had volunteers, because we wanted them to progress through their certification process.
Right.
Well, we had volunteers who did the minimum basic training and did their live burn. But it may have been like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And we wanted them to start the progression process. And so by expanding that out to the 10 years, it gave them that window.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they don't get it, and they should do another live burn before they can test for.
So the way that it read the exact same, I just, that was all.
Yeah, I was to try to,
Every commission certification recipient shall have completed an approved course that has a practical examination and written examination derived from the performance standards in chapter 6. Do we want to add practical / project / practical examination?
Yes.
Examination for fire instructor one shall consist of the practical, this is the whole list we have here.
It says every commission certification recipient shall have completed, not every one, well, I guess everyone
You want
does.
me to say and or? Does everyone have either a written or?
So that's kind of a weird, just thrown in their statement, like it doesn't correspond with anything.
You want to just take it out?
And if you're gonna say every commission certification in number 3, and then go on from 4 all the way down, listing each one out individually, I don't think you need like a catch-all. This,
Well, and there's a couple that don't have,
They're on bullet.
I'm sorry,
There's a couple that aren't listed in that list, I don't think.
well, like FSLEs don't have a commission approved course.
Wildland don't have a course.
Wildland doesn't have a course, Fire 2 doesn't.
Okay, so every commission certification recipient shall have completed a commission approved written examination. Just take
Take it out,
this part out, or you want to take the whole thing?
take the whole thing out.
You good? Got it? So then this list is specific certifications that I enumerated earlier that need to have the word project added. Is there anything else we need to change in numbers 4 through 7?
So with number 4, the way that one words, the practical is to be graded by an individual certified by the Tennessee Commission on Firefighting as either
Instructor or
a vocational or higher education instructor. So that means anybody that's an instructor can grade that? That, am I reading that right?
let's leave that one for next time. Any changes to number 8, fire officer 2? Officer 3, officer 4, check.
Stop. Stop.
HMO, airport firefighter.
Should be H.
Did I mean to cross this out under live burn, or is that?
You can.
Yeah. See table.
Fire night. Number 13.
Is it what you do?
Have a random red
Yeah,
line.
to HDMI one.
It's not standard. It's there.
I don't know if I made a change or if this is something we previously discussed and I just forgot.
Yeah. So,
Sorry, on here, it's at the bottom, number 13. Under B. I either inadvertently or have forgotten why we read by sections 1 and 2. It was.
Where are you at? My bad.
Under section 13 on the bottom of page 6, Airport firefighter, for some reason, I had redlined B1 and B2, but I think it was just an S.
Well, so I was actually just looking at that and I was about to ask. So there's nothing from a certification standpoint that is required of a Federal Aviation Administration training board. So that might have been a legit strike.
Number 1.
Yes.
What? What suppression verification sheet. Okay.
Back there.
So then number 14 and 15, wildland.
Ellington.
Fire life safety educator, we added the word safety. Fire apparatus operator. Changes there on number 18. Pumper driver operator. An aerial apparatus driver operator.
While we're talking about driving, Palmer and I had conversations about this yesterday. Now, with the practical packet that is submitted from internal to the commission office, and that's what's allowing them to do their written tests. He had said something about that.
Part of the criteria for accreditation is kind of having that positive control over the testing environment. And by allowing a fire department or wherever the training is conducted, wherever the training is being conducted, and accepting the practical skills being done locally with no ability for commission staff to actually either administer or observe the testing, we don't have control over that.
Right.
So essentially, we're violating policy.
Right. So it's not technically a practical examination at that.
Correct.
So because we're sitting here right now talking about this, should this be worded kind of like the project and not a practical?
The difference there is the project, I'm doing the project and I'm submitting it to Todd to be graded.
Right.
So that would essentially be, it's still gonna be a practical skill because they're performing it.
Right.
And it's not like they're not driving their truck around and then submitting something to Todd to verify or to grade it that it was done correctly.
Right. So my question now is I already know the answers, but I'm putting it on record. Is this one of those certifications that can be a written test only for certification?
No.
So now, with that being said, what is our workaround to meet the accreditation body's intent?
So, and just one person's opinion real quick, you got two different options right off the top of my head. One, when Todd creates a testing event, whoever wants to get certified for driver operator comes to that, performs the practical skills in front of Todd or Stalker, or one of the doctors, is that the right term?
Like contractors, but we call them.
There
Or
were, so,
evaluators.
right, somebody, commission staff personnel, that's their degrade. Two, you come up with a process to allow folks across the state to be able to be approved to test for those particular skills. And those are the only people that would at that point be allowed to test. So if out of this room, you and Todd were the only two that were basically given the approval to test, right, then nobody else can do that but you do. And that could be another. Was that me doing that?
No.
Oh, my bad. And that could be an unlimited number. So North Carolina, their whole certification system is based off of that process. And in the state of North Carolina, there's roughly 3,000 individuals that are approved to teach firefighter certification classes. And that number varies from across all 54 levels of certification.
And that goes back to having those pre-falls.
Correct. Whatever, the commission may say, okay, if you want to be able to sign off on the driver operator skills, you've had to be certified as a driver operator for 3 years or 10 years, whatever that number looks like. You could say that you have to have fire instructor 2 or 1, you know what I mean? Like, you guys could literally set what that looks like, but then the people that meet those requirements and whatever testing requirements that you might require of somebody to do practical skills out, because they would need to know what the rules are. They would need to know what the expectation is, because what they do in Memphis impacts what happens in Bristol. Right? If somebody's doing it wrong and it basically violates policy, that holds our accreditation for the entire state in each one of their hands. And so I would recommend that there would be some form of, whether it be a class, training, something that kind of explains and breaks all that down, if that was the avenue that we decided to go. But then that allows there to not be a change in the process and the procedures that is being done now. And it doesn't have a major impact on the ability for all the departments to, because obviously if you say they all got to come to a testing event, that changes.
That you just went from a 3 or 6 hour testing event to a 12-hour.
Or multiple days,
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Multiple days.
So whatever that looks like, but those are the two right off the top of my head options that I would throw out there. And then obviously I'm not the end all be all. I'll be the first to say that.
No, but you're the subject matter experts concerning accreditation. So Josh Evans has his hand up.
Just in line with what you were talking about, I'll keep this quick. I know we've talked about it before, but PDO is the one class I hear, one cert that I hear volunteer departments, asking for a pathway to be able to do for their drivers that don't want to be firefighters. And I know in the past, I've understood that either the way the NFPA or the accreditation requirements are worded that we can't do that. But I just wanted to ask him if that was still the case, or if there were any states that have, found a way around that, or other options where you could allow a member to go through all the training, actually get a commission cert, but that doesn't have firefighter 1 or firefighter 2.
So without kind of really digging into the standards to see what they say specifically, if I recall correctly, firefighter 1 requires all the certain things that firefighter 1 does. I believe that in some of the driver operator stuff, there is a handful of things that would basically be duplicated. And so where most folks or most entities will kind of say, just have your firefighter 1, so they're not having to regurgitate a bunch of stuff. Because if you create a class for driver operator, it makes it real hard to make it, well, you can take this class if you've done it this way, or this class if you've done it this way, to keep it clean. If you just do the prerequisites of having the firefighter, then you don't have to duplicate a whole bunch of material. And I can get a better answer for you by digging into standard when I have a little bit more time than right this second.
Okay. I'd love to connect with you on that at some point, because I think that's the one commission certification that would be really helpful to a lot of volunteer departments who want to have some type of certification for their drivers, but those are drivers that are never going to be at least interior firefighters,
So looking at the apparatus pumper, which is chapter 12, it says for qualification as a fire apparatus driver operator pumper, the candidate shall meet the requirements defined in chapters 4, 11, and 12. Chapter 4 is the general requirements for the firefighter piece. 11 is your general requirements for driver operator, and then 12 being your pumper. Chapter 4 gets into and without tying up a bunch of time, there's a handful of things that it goes into, and we can speak offline if you would like
Sure.
to kind of go over what that looks like.
All right, thanks.
Besides the things, adding the word project in the right place and other things.
Hey, this is David Doris. I have a question.
Yep.
Sorry, I had to log back in on my phone. I can't figure out how to raise my hand on this one, but referring to chapter 4, is that in the new FPA standard? Is that on the support firefighter you're discussing, or is that firefighter 1?
Nope. Chapter 5 is the support person. Chapter 4 is the general requirements for all firefighter piece.
All right. Okay, I couldn't remember. I have it in front of me. So my understanding from discussion, I had to leave for a little bit, is on the apparatus practicals. I know I've already had some conversations with our regional coordinator here that they're not being done properly since you got here and digging into it. So for example, my department, I have a program submitted to the approval to teach pumper aerial classes that's approved, and they're still approved undoubtedly until the new NFPA standard comes out and something changes where we have to change the standard. I have to submit new classes. So in this process, can we not just add that as part of the course approval as to, in the Jackson Fire Department, these are the people who meet the certifications that can now do these internal practicals like you were discussing?
We could. That would ultimately come back to whatever the commission decided to be what those prerequisites are. And that was just one option that I, off the top of my head, threw out there. There may be something more efficient, something better. But yes, that would be my recommendation. One would be for us to be able to quote unquote be able to checks and balance what the testing environment looks like. The coordinators and the proctors and contractors would have to have the ability to show up and make sure that it was being done appropriately and within the guidelines of commission and accrediting policies. So it would almost, that would kind of take away the blanket approval with one submission. So basically everybody would have to submit in a course approval for each course that they wanted to run, because we would have to know when time periods that the practical skills were being completed.
Okay.
I don't know
So
if that
is
answered your question or not.
that just for the aerial apparatus certifications, or is that all the technical classes as well, such as hazmat's done internal, rope classes, those things, well, were internal. They were, the rope technical classes were set up where the commission had to come do the practicals. Then they changed it to a local practical. Now the instructors from TFACA are allowed to do the practicals because it was interfering with the classes. And then we have hazmat where Tima's teaching classes. Is that all of them or just certain ones?
David, I hate to interrupt. We're going down a huge rabbit hole that we're not ready to tackle just yet. So we can have further discussion about this at a later date, but right now we're just trying to get some quick general cleanup on these rules. So again, this is
On this chapter.
yes, on this chapter. I'm sorry. Like I said, I want to have further discussion on this because this is a huge topic, but for the sake of today, I think we need to try to get back on track.
Yes.
So
So we said no changes through number 21. 22 through 24, I'm gonna pull the NFPA standards, and we took out the committee evaluation stuff. 5, 26. Any changes?
Well, go back up just a second. So if we're not gonna have an NFPA reference, there's no reason for chapter 4 and 7 to be there.
No, I'm gonna take all that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or chapter 5 and 6, yeah.
I'm gonna take everything to the period out.
Okay.
I just didn't.
Okay.
25 and 26. Twenty-seven through 30.
Our inspector shall consist of a project,
On that list, so. One through 33.
Plans review or project or practical exam.
It's not on my list as a project.
Do we even have that certification yet?
Plans review.
Plans
We
review.
were accredited to. I think it kind of was a pilot that never really got off the ground.
There's no rush on it.
Did we
Well,
want to
there's
read-
the rush to be on that is if we're going to do it, it has to be, we have to move to that standard by the end of this year. And for Pro Board's 2-year requirement, 1030 has to be implemented by the end of this year. So if we're going to do it, that just means that's on the plate to be updated and rewritten to the new standard before December 31st. If we're not gonna do it, no harm, no foul. That's one less thing that has to be done before the end of the year. And if you want some gee whiz information on that, none of the publishers have a test bank for that, so we'll have to write our own entire test bank for plans examiner verification.
Could we put practical/project because we don't know what it's going to be yet?
True story?
Yep,
Yes.
And that way it's encompassing,
Whatever.
we decide.
And so to that point too, we can do a portfolio where people's experiences and education can check boxes for the accredited, as long as it meets the JPRs. If somebody did a degree, we can count that, but that would have to be called a portfolio, and I don't throw that out there to open any more cans of worms, but just as an option.
fire marshal, is there,
We're not accredited to that, so we don't.
ARF, is there a project?
ARF is practical skills.
Okay. Written examinations. And then this is where we,
hold on,
oh, sorry.
written examinations shall be scheduled and conducted by the commission office or representatives.
It's true. They're all our employees, whether
Contractors.
it's Todd or
They're
They're-
commission representatives.
Okay, all right.
Practical examinations. Talked through the live burn stuff earlier. Firefighter 1, firefighter 2, we talked about keeping that. I think eyeglasses needs to be 1, 1, 2 here. Number 4 and number 5.
No, he was responding to,
Oh.
he was talking to Stephen.
That's the bottom of number 5 and number 6.
I don't know if y'all seen, I have my hand up. I got a question about, for every 2 students, an instructor needs to be sent. Is that going to be enforced?
Where is the
4A.
You can turn them away as the examiner. I mean, yes, you can. We're not gonna be there. But the hosting department, I've never heard anybody turn anybody away, but there's been a pretty good agreement that if I send 5 from Brentwood to Franklin, I send 2 evaluators.
Yes, I
Franklin
agree.
has the right to refuse those if we don't send an evaluator.
Okay.
It's in the rule.
No, I appreciate you clarifying that. Thank you.
Yeah, you as the host can always say, well, you didn't see anybody evaluate, bye. But if we took that out, that they wouldn't have that authority.
Oh, no. I wanted to stay there.
Yeah, I want to stay too, because it's only fair. If you're willing to set the training ground up and host one, if you're gonna send 2, 3, 4, 5 they should be sending some evaluators.
5 and 6,
Thank you.
7A.
Just gonna do this to me all afternoon.
Wait, back up.
Or 2.
Just 9F.
It seems to be bad, because mine, it wasn't even an option.
Okay. I just saw a bunch of numbers there and I need to.
Down to P. M through S. Chapter 4. All right. We've updated 6,
3 and 4.
3 and 4. We closed out 7 last.
So it's 13:50. Are you ready for any public comments?
You can ask the commission or
The audience? How did that happen? Oh, that's you.
sorry, I'm trying to tell you here.
You're blowing my mind. What am I doing? Any public comments from anyone online that we're not setting another meeting at this point. This package will be submitted to,
The commission will vote whether to move forward with a rulemaking hearing package. If they vote yes, then this will go to internal review and then to the Secretary of State's office, where it will sit for 52 days pending a rulemaking hearing. At the rulemaking hearing, we'll take public comments as well as have the 2-week comment period. That's when we can get down into the details. After the rulemaking hearing, the edits will be made and it will go through the normal process with the Attorney General's office, the Governor's office, and then finally sit with the Secretary of State's office until it becomes rule and is approved by the Government Operations Committee.
Randy has a comment.
Okay.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
Randy.
Hey, I appreciate that. I just for me, to all y'all, thank y'all for all the hard work y'all are putting into this. I can say from the years of experience that I've been here, that it's gotten a whole lot better. So Miss Heather, thank you for everything you have done to get the commission back on track. So I appreciate that, the firefighting commission. On a lighter note, I think Miss Heather needs a raise and needs a whole lot more people to help her out. How about that, Heather?
Appreciate it.
No, but seriously though, doing this virtual meetings like this, I don't know if you realize, but you're going to get a whole lot more participation than everybody trying to come to one location. And thank you for doing this. I've told Commissioner Cobb this. I've told Todd Rantley this. I've even told Director Heather this, Zimmerman this. Having it virtual like this just makes it better for everybody. So I appreciate it, and I just wanted to convey that to all of you. So thank you.
And the full commission will meet the 29th,
Yes.
Tuesday in Putnam, at the Putnam County EOC
Yes.
in Cookville.
And there's a VEIP subcommittee meeting the day before.
Yes.
The day before. Any other public comments while we're here?
Mr. Chairman, is it the intention to have this on that agenda for the 29th?
Yes, that is the intention.
Not the contents, but just formal permission to move forward with the rulemaking process.
Okay.
After that, Bo, how long till the red line's out?
It has to go through internal review and then sit at the Secretary of State's office for 52 days. So there will be, once we file it with the Secretary of State's office, there will be 52 days notice of the rulemaking hearing.
And that usually takes place as part of one of the commission meetings, right?
In the past, it has, because of the urgency of these rules, we may call a special meeting, but it would not be a emergency meeting. There'd be plenty of notice.
Thank you.
So we appreciate the participation across the state. I mean, you are the customers, and I mean, all of us in here are practitioners, but we can get blinders on or miss something or see something. And I hope everybody that's on understands there are competing interests. Like I say, I can, as a volunteer fireman, as a training officer, as a chief, there's three sides to this coin, unfortunately, because what the training officers want doesn't always synchronize with what the fire chiefs might want, or even the Tennessee professional. I mean, there are a lot of competing interests. So just understand that our goal is to do what's best for the majority, to make it a better process. And really the office, I mean, they're the ones that have to answer the mail, answer the phone. They get they catch the brunt of whatever we decide. So we take those into account too. Anything else before we adjourn for the day? So people got some driving to do. If there are no other comments, we will adjourn the meeting.
I'm a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. The ayes have it. We're adjourned. See y'all in Cookville. You're welcome to stay here a while too, but now you can go get the other stuff.